This is the opening drive on 101 ESPN.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the opening drive on 101 ESPN in St. Louis, where it is 7 o'clock. Your time check brought to you by Clarkson Jewelers, an officially licensed Rolex jeweler. Happy Friday. Brooke Grimsley, Danny Mack, Randy Carricker. Great to have you with us. Second alert weather, by the way. It is 40 degrees in St. Louis. It's kind of warming up a little bit, so as you head out the door, all you need to do is wear a pullover. You don't need the light jacket this morning, and it's going to be very nice today. By the end of the day, it's going to be in the mid-70s. It's going to be like perfect temperature. Second alert weather here on 101 ESPN. How are we doing, kids?
Oh, good morning, everybody. I'm doing great, especially after hearing how it will at least warm up throughout the day. It is very chilly still in the mornings, and that's still a little hard to get used to, but when it's around 70 in the afternoons, that sounds perfect.
Stevie Nicks will love it. Fred the dog will love it. It'll just be a great day for
Fred just loves to be outside.
Does he really?
Yeah, he loves it, man. We have to struggle to get him back in, so that's how he wears himself out, and it's perfect.
Does he need a lot of walks or anything right now?
Not on the walks yet, but just let him outside, let him do his thing, and it's tire him out. That's what we need. Just get tired.
Does he like the ball?
Yes.
Okay. That's
likes leaves,
is he
acorns.
golden? Is he? Do you have another? Okay.
Yeah, he's a golden.
The McLaughlin family has always been a golden family.
That's right.
So good.
Yeah.
Yeah. He'll like that ball forever. That's great.
Not tearing into things?
Not yet.
Wow.
Not yet. Not
Fred
too
is
bad.
a really good puppy.
He is. He just doesn't sleep all that well.
Oh,
we need him to sleep a little bit more.
Yeah. So we got quite a show coming up. We're going to talk to Jed Stugart. His team has a staunch task ahead of them tomorrow. They have to play both Gardner and Webb. So it's going to be a tough day for the Lions when you have to play two teams.
Randy.
Yeah.
That's an easier game than William and Mary.
Yeah, Bill and Mary, man.
Wow.
I always thought that one was tough.
Seems unfair, honestly.
It really does, yeah. So we'll see what Coach thinks of that. We're also going to talk to Jay Delsing, and Joey Vitale is going to join us after the Blues knocked off the Islanders last night in OT. Thank you, Jake Neighbors. 1-0 was the score as the Blues came away with an important win coming off of the lackluster home opener that they played earlier in the week.
Yeah, what a great performance. You mentioned Jake Neighbors, but I really want to focus on Joel Hofer here, what he was able to do. He was just massive in the game, not just with his saves, but also with his puck movement and what he was able to do.
What a job in terms of puck movement on the game-winning goal.
The Blues go to make the line change. Glance pass ahead to Broberg. With Neighbors going to the goal. Neighbors, he scores! Jake Neighbors, the overtime game winner. Bring out the Zamboni. Hofer's going to get an assist. And the Blues beat the Islanders 1-0 in a shutout performance by Joel Hofer and a game winner by Jake Neighbors. What a pass from Hofer. What a pass from Broberg. And a great tip by Neighbors.
Hofer, Broberg, and Neighbors there at the end, especially Philip Broberg. We've been talking about him a lot, and that's because he deserves it. He is so great out there, and get this, he's the first Blues defenseman to start a regular season with a point in each of the first 5 games since Alex Pietrangelo.
I give a lot of credit to Ryan Suter. He played 25 minutes and 10 seconds last night. Second most behind Parayko, who looked very, very comfortable in that pairing. And you talked about a veteran being with Parayko yesterday. I don't know if it's sustainable, a guy that age, to play 25 minutes a game, but he looked fantastic last night. I thought that was huge. Brooke, you mentioned Broberg, 5 straight with a point, and that tandem, too. Broberg and Falk have been very good.
Yeah.
So it's a solid win for the Blues. It's one that they needed to be at home and lose the home opener, come back and bounce back and get a W. That was important.
Yeah, to the Broberg point, not only the first since Petro to have 5 points in 5 straight games, the first Blues defenseman ever to have 5 points in his first 5 games with the team.
Yeah.
That is looking like it's very early, right? But that looks like a really good signing, maybe a heist by Army.
Yeah, that's what we were hoping for with those offer sheets. And, you know, just talking to Broberg and even Holloway coming into the season, Army really didn't put too many stipulations or pressure really on them of the expectations. He just knew that he gave them the opportunity to really get some more playing time that they had in the past, because obviously they both had very limited playing time, and they are just really making the most of it. I thought also it was a great game by P.O. Joseph. I think that he deserves another shot. The forecheck to me was a lot more noticeable too last night.
Yeah, both Josephs play with a level of energy that's necessary for a winning team.
And their mom and dad was in attendance last night. I think it's just a crisper game. I mean, they created more scoring chances. The goaltender was outstanding in Hofer with 34 saves, and he can handle the puck. I mean, that's one thing both guys can do very well. Bennington, when he's in there too, can do what Hofer and pull that off what he did last night. So it's a good game. I like the way the pairings are working. I thought Bolduc played a really good game too. He was more physical. And for Jake Neighbors, it gets him off the fact that he hadn't scored. And so maybe that's something that gets him going a little bit. But you mentioned the numbers, Randy, yesterday. I found it interesting was that early in the season of last year, Neighbors really wasn't scoring. And maybe this is something that gets him going.
Yeah, he had, I believe it was 2 goals in his first 15 games, maybe 1 goal in his first 15 games, then scored 7 in 7.
Right.
So maybe he's a streaky scorer. And it's too early. Even if once we get to 8 games and we've played a 10th of the season, it's still too early to make judgments about young players. Some guys, if it's an older player and he had a down year last year and there's a decline and you see the decline continue, I think you can make a judgment. But with this team, it's so young and doesn't have any chemistry. You have so many new players. I think we really do have to give this group time. And by the way, let's throw in the coaching staff too. The coaching staff is relatively new. I think there's a lot of things that go into this team being able to ascend during the course of the season.
And that's the thing. I mean, if I'm Drew Bannister, I'm walking a fine line of, yes, I'm trying to win games, but I'm also trying to figure out combinations and do young players deserve to stay in the lineup? Zach Bolduc's a good example. He needed to have a good game yesterday, and he did, so he'll stay in the lineup.
Skill plays. Skill's got to play.
Yeah, it's all about, too, we talk about the way that they just go into the season. They don't really ease into the season. You just have a very quick training camp, and then preseason, and then boom, the season is right there. So you guys are talking about chemistry. Think about all these new faces coming in. It will take a little bit to figure out everybody's clear role and the chemistry with all the lines.
So the Blues win it 1-0 in overtime. Tomorrow night, they'll play the Hurricanes, and that's a 6 o'clock game. I'm glad that I just looked up at the board to see that it's a 5 o'clock pregame and a 6 o'clock faceoff. Otherwise, I would have gotten there late tomorrow. But I'm going to be there on time because now I know via radio.
Yes, that's what we do here.
Yeah.
The first alert on that, second alert on weather.
That's right. What a couple of baseball games last night. We get to see highly competitive baseball in one and then absolute dominance in the other. Guardians over the Yankees 7-5, and what a game this was. And what a fun game-winning home run we had. Here's the way things unfolded for Cleveland and the New York Yankees.
Ready for a 1-2. Here he comes. Judge, line drive, right field, hit well, and it is up and out! Judge has homered! The game is tied at 3. On to Kerry Carpenter. That ball's hit well. Deep center field. Way back there. Giancarlo Stanton! A home run! Judge and Stanton go back to back. Oh my goodness! Big Christmas! Feliz Navidad! Feliz Navidad! Acaba de empatar el encuentro la Navidad en octubre. ¡Qué bárbaro! ¡Qué monstruo! John Kinsey Noel! The biggest swing of his life! Fry, deep drive, left field! Fry's watching! It is a walk-off home run! David Fry lights up the Cleveland night!
What an incredible last 3 innings. You heard the Judge and Stanton home runs in the 8th. Noel hitting a home run to get the game tied. And then David Fry, another pinch hit home run in these playoffs. And how much fun was it to watch him stand and watch that home run?
Oh my gosh, it was absolutely just insane. And seeing the crowd through all that too. I just want to go back to Noel and that call right there. We had the regular one and then you had the Spanish call there too. And he just came off the bench to sock a pinch hit game tying 2-run home run. And off of Luke Weaver, of course. And we talked about Luke Weaver, how important he's been, and he's been fantastic. But I mean, what a moment it was for Noel there. And just to see the crowd. You're very excited to see such an instant classic. The baseball gods delivered that. But, man, I get a little bit jealous just watching that, seeing the fans just truly just so excited. Makes me think about the Cardinals all the time. Don't you guys, you enjoy watching the postseason, but you imagine what it'd be like here in St. Louis.
There is no such thing as a lockdown closer.
Not anymore.
There's just not a guy that is a lockdown closer. The closest to that was Mariano Rivera, and even he would struggle sometimes in postseason play. Rarely does it happen. But last night, you had Clase, who's been awful in the postseason. You had Luke Weaver, who finally broke. And you had Clay Holmes, who was the closer going into September for the Yankees. All cough it up. Emmanuel Clase now 7 runs in 5 postseason games. He gave up a total of 5 in 74 games and 74 innings this year. Noel, they got a jolt out of him at the end of the season. He had 13 home runs in his first 45 games. And they think, okay, we got something in this guy. From August 31st through the end of the regular season, he hit 113. He had 1 hit in October. You never know when a guy is going to emerge. And then, David Fry 2.5 years ago was a player to be named later for a reliever that Milwaukee got. You just never know. That's what makes baseball so much fun.
And baseball postseason, because who would have expected David Fry to do it again? And then the bat flip was reminiscent of Tom Lawless in 1987. The way Lawman, who had something like 26 at-bats all year long, hits it, watches it, and then bat flip just like Fry's.
Off of Frank Viola against Minnesota at home at Busch Stadium, and it's still one of the most iconic home runs in Cardinals history. And you just don't know who might step up in a time to make it a classic game. And that was truly a classic game yesterday.
And Dan, you mentioned there's no such thing as a lockdown closer. And one of the things in baseball that just... it's a shame that we've lost it, is the starting pitching matchup. And the fact that you had to have Clark Schmidt against Matthew Boyd as the starters in this game. Schmidt goes 4 2/3. He allows 2 runs on 5 hits. He had gas left in the tank. He'd thrown 78 pitches. Matthew Boyd goes 5 innings, allows 1 run on 2 hits. He's thrown 75 pitches, and they pull him. It's not like they're being pulled for pinch hitters in a scoreless game. It's just that baseball is so tied to these ridiculous numbers that they don't trust pitchers anymore.
Why is Yamamoto pulled in the game with the Mets and the Dodgers?
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
He was so good last night. His secondary pitches were working. He had his slider and his split-fingered pitch was just both of them outstanding. He had 15 swings on 66 pitches, 16 swings and misses, 15, on the 66 that he had thrown, and they take him out of the game. You go to the bullpen, and then that certainly can have an effect on what happens later in the series. I mean, Jack Flaherty will go. Dave Roberts is going to have him go in the next game for them, but what if Jack Flaherty is terrible and gives you 2 innings?
Yeah, then all of a sudden it becomes a bullpen game.
Yeah, you're compromised.
You use your bullpen. By the way, Jose Quintana deserved to be pulled last night after 3 1/3. He'd allowed 5 runs on 5 hits, walked 4, and was obviously replaced. And the Mets allow 10 runs. Dodgers win at 10-2, and they're on the brink of heading to the World Series.
Yeah, I was very surprised by both games last night. I honestly was not expecting the Guardians to be the ones who had the powerful punch back last night between the 2 games, but they were the ones who did it. If you look at the Dodgers and Mets game, the Mets pitching staff, we talked about this yesterday, they have issued 31 walks now through these 4 games. And the Mets have left 20 on base in the last 2 games, and last night 0 for 10 with runners in scoring position. So that is a huge issue for them. The Dodgers on the other side, I mean, you have Shohei Ohtani, you have Mookie Betts, and you have cleanup hitter Tommy Edman.
Tommy Edman. Yeah, how about that? How about Tommy Edman?
3 more runs batted in for him. He's batting cleanup. He's played short, and he's played center field. He moves runners over, and he's just showing how good he is. I mean, if you look at the trade deadline deals that were made by the Dodgers, Tommy Edman is proving to be a huge one. Michael Kopech is another one that comes out of their bullpen. And Randy, we talk about going to the bullpen, guys, early, and you were mentioning that, how you go to the bullpen so early. I thought the key in the game, you had 2 on in the fourth, Mookie Betts at the plate, and they did not bring in a high leverage reliever. If you're going to bring in a reliever, that's the game.
Right.
That's the high leverage situation. You got to get through the fourth and get through Betts just to make this still a tight ball game.
And I think now, because you can't trust Class A, you can't afford to get a couple of runs behind because he can't be your ninth inning guy anymore. So if you have a lead at any point in the game or you're still threatening, you have to use your best guys then. It's a different animal altogether if you have a guy that is locked down in the ninth inning, but he isn't anymore.
No, it's very shocking for Class A, but as you guys mentioned, the postseason is just a completely different animal on its own. It really feels like the bullpen is the most important aspect of the game
There's
during
no
the
doubt,
postseason.
Brooke. Yeah, you're 100% right.
This shows how good the Dodgers are, too, though.
Right.
Their
And
depth, they just have so much available.
Yeah.
And last night, you had one of the weirdest batting lines ever. At one point in the game, Ohtani was 1 for 1 with 4 runs scored.
Right. As Brooke mentioned, 31 walks in the 4 games. It shows you that the lineup is deep and they make you grind. And that was the whole idea when they came into this season, is that they have guys that are not only big names, but they picked up like a Max Muncy who reached base 12 straight times. And that's now a postseason record of guys that grind through at bats. And so there's really no weakness in their lineup, and their top 3, even when Freddie Freeman is out, is still very, very good. And they're 4 for 25. The Mets are, with runners in scoring position on the flip side in the series. The 4 hits came in 1 game. So they're just not doing it with runners in scoring position.
This afternoon, the Dodgers can punch their ticket to the World Series. They'll pitch Jack Flaherty. He'll be opposed by Peterson of the Mets, and that game is at 4 o'clock St. Louis time. Then tonight at 7, Junkies and Guardians. Heel against Williams, and the Yankees can move to the brink of the World Series with a win there. Thursday Night Football last night, Broncos drilled the Saints 33-10. Sean Payton with the revenge game, and the Saints, who started off 2-0 and dominated their first 2 games, are now 2-5 and look like, as we approach the trade deadline, they might be moving away some pieces.
Do you see? Did you guys watch the game at all?
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit. That was an awful game.
It was terrible. I mean, the Broncos rushed for 225 yards. They did whatever they wanted on offense, and they're not like an offensive juggernaut. Richard Sherman during halftime said the defense looked like they were trying to get Allen fired. He said it looks like they're trying to get the head coach fired.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's a bold statement, but man, it held up. I mean, they looked terrible.
And oh, by the way, I know that Sean Payton wanted out of New Orleans, and I kind of thought that he might have been a product of Drew Brees. But he's not. Sean Payton is a legitimately good head coach. And you can think that because when he had Drew Brees, he was really successful in New Orleans. Then when he lost Drew Brees, he wasn't. So I wondered what the Broncos had, but he's doing it with Bo Nix, and they're finding ways. You can tell that he's a Bill Parcells disciple because they're finding ways to win games in ugly fashion, but at the end of the day, they're winning the games.
Yeah, it was really ugly. That was a really, really bad Thursday night football game. I really feel for Al Michaels and them that they have to call some of these terrible.
They've had a pretty good schedule this year, though. It hasn't been as bad as this year.
It is better. It just always felt like here lately that those Thursday night football games are just disastrous. And with this one, the Broncos were okay, but the Saints were just really bad.
Yeah.
Kirk Herbstreit's a better NFL broadcaster than he is in college, which I don't know how that works. But last night he put on a clinic last night. He was unbelievable. Like, he was first-year Romo last night. He was calling plays out. Every single snap, he was right there with what the play call was going to be. Herbstreit was incredible last night.
And I heard Ben made the trip. Is this true? That Ben,
yes.
Because Ben had Ben the Golden, that travels with Kirk Herbstreit, had some surgery and missed a week, but now he's back and going strong. So that's good.
Hold on, Rocky. You think he's better on the pro game?
I have that is honestly one of the top 3 games I've ever heard him color comment.
Wow.
Like, he was unbelievable last night. And I don't know if he just had a crazy good broadcast meeting, looking at you, Tom Brady, because he was calling out plays every single time. Like, it was like first year Romo. It was like he was in Clint Kubiak and whoever and Sean Payton's heads. It was nuts. I thought it was one of the most impressive games I've ever heard him call, which I know is random on a bad Thursday night football game, but he was in the zone.
Coming up here on 101 ESPN, we'll head to the college game. Lindenwood, Mizzou, and Illinois all in action this weekend. Talk about it next with Jed Stugart, the head coach of the Lions, on 101 ESPN. A nice win for the Lindenwood Lions last week at Harlan-Hunter Stadium. The final score was 29-14 over Charleston Southern. And now Lindenwood will head to North Carolina, where they will take on Gardner-Webb tomorrow. Head coach of the Lions, Jed Stugart, joins us now on 101 ESPN. Coach, good morning. How you doing?
Great, Randy. Good to be on with you, man.
So I think it's unfair that you guys have to play both Gardner and Webb. Why did you schedule two teams rather than one?
I know. Does it just make you think of Charlotte's Web? I don't know. It just takes me back to that special place, right? Yeah, first time we've ever two programs have ever faced each other. I feel like we have a lot of those first in this little move to D1. So it's kind of fun to take on somebody we've never played before. So it'll be interesting.
Coach, it really seems like the unsung heroes sometimes are special teams, especially your kickers. And for the second time this season, Belleville West native Logan Siebert has been named the Big South OVC Special Teams Player of the Week. How crucial has he been for you guys?
No, he's been clutch. I tell you, we've been having, it's hard to win college football games. It is. And, we'd love to score touchdowns every time in the red zone. That's what we're going to keep stressing and emphasizing. But, it just is such a great feeling to know when Logan trots out there. It just gives we just have such a confidence in him. He just is, he's amazing. And really he's won, he's been responsible for two of these close wins, and cause when you don't get points down in the red zone, it can be demoralizing. And so you feel like you get something out of it. He just keeps us in there. So real proud of him.
Coach, at your level, and you're going to D1, how do you guys travel? We always hear about the big-time programs, and they're going on their jets and sending out equipment a week early to potential site. How do you guys travel? How does that work?
Well, we feel like we travel pretty first class. It's pretty awesome. We're going to go drive over to a hangar there at the airport and get on a nice charter flight where just for us and our fans and personnel. And so, give our DFO Keegan Roberson, I got to give him all the props on all of our setting up our trips, because it's always first class. And it's just, it's important to, travel is a big key. You want to get there. You don't want to have a lot of distractions. You want to get to, we eat everything in the hotels that we stay at, so we're not having to go out to different restaurants and things. So I give him, he does a great job for us. But, you want to try to eliminate as much, especially in travel days where you're flying. You want to get there. You want to get to the hotel. You want to get your routine as soon as possible. And not have to be on buses is a great blessing.
Lindenwood coach Jed Stugart with us on 101 ESPN. I want to go back to Logan Siebert for just a minute. And this is a weird question, but do bloodlines ever play a role when you recruit? Because his brother, Austin, kicked for the Lions. He's the kicker for the Commanders now. He's kicked 7 field goals in a game at the beginning of the season. So when you recruit a guy and you know that his brother or his father has been a good player, does that make a difference?
Well, it does. I think, I remember when we recruited him, he had offers to Power 5 and Power 4 places early on, or a group of 5. And, we were able to get Logan because actually somebody, won't mention the program, but, he was set and committed to go, and they ended up running out of scholarships and kind of pulled it from him last minute. And we were able to be right place, right time. Because, obviously I remember Austin, I think he set the all-time points at Oklahoma as well. And so, to be able to have a kid like that, and we had to wait a couple days, on signing day because, he had a lot of opportunities. And so when you can, I love bloodlines, but, coaches, kids, all those types of things are huge. And, it's fun is during the summertime, Austin and Logan would practice, at our field. And my office right there overlooks the field, and you could just hear, bombs hitting the side of the building. Austin just crushing these balls with Logan. So it's kind of cool. It's been fun to get to know that family, and again, Logan's just been clutch for us.
Coach, a chance to get to 500 tomorrow. Your team is on the rise. How do you think you're doing as you approach game number 8 tomorrow? How do you like where your team is?
Well, I really, we got to clean up a few things. We had I really like where I think our defense keeps getting more and more confident, and I think they're playing really well right now. I think our offense, we have these flashes. We got to be more consistent on offense. I think basically I felt like we won 29-0 last week. We had two plays in the end of the first half that were just weird. A pick six and then a scoop and score fumble.
Mm-hmm.
That was all designed. Our athletic director said our second half concessions haven't been very well, so we kind of threw that in there to keep the fans in the stands for the second half. But no, you got to get we got to take care. It's just really ball security, and I think that's one thing. Right now, our quarterback's playing really well, but he's put the ball on the ground a little bit. We've dropped, our best player the receiver drops 2 touchdown passes in the red zone. Those things have to get corrected because he makes all the other catches. I mean, it's come down to consistency, and that's what we focused on all week, and ball security. Our quarterback has never held onto a ball tighter this week in practice than in his life, and so we've focused on a lot of that too, because we got to chip away at these little mistakes that have held us back offensively, and I think we're addressing that. And I feel good going into this week. We've had a great week of practice.
Coach, good luck against Gardner-Webb, and we will talk to you next week.
Great. Have a great weekend, y'all.
Thanks, Jed. Take care. Jed Stugart, the head coach of the Lindenwood Lions. By the way, their next home game, October 26th, against Western Illinois. That's their homecoming game. And, of course, that will be at Hunter Stadium. Meanwhile, speaking of homecoming, Mizzou has theirs tomorrow. They'll take on Auburn at Faurot Field. The Tigers, number 19 in the country. Auburn has had a propensity to turn the ball over so far this season. Hugh Freeze, their coach, has been a really good head coach, whether it was at Liberty or before that at Ole Miss, and he'll get that Auburn program running. That being said, if you are Mizzou and you are what you think you are, you have to win homecoming against Auburn tomorrow.
It really feels like this is a matchup of two teams really trying to prove they're better than what they have shown so far. And I know that might sound crazy for Mizzou being 5-1, but I feel like that Texas A&M loss still just really is stinging this program. You were able to bounce back with a win against UMass, but that was UMass, right? You really weren't able to turn the page like you wanted to, especially with SEC play. Auburn coming in, you mentioned the turnovers that they're dealing with, but this is actually a good Auburn team. It's just the turnovers. If they're able to clean that up, and Eli Drinkwitz mentioned this, then this is a really good team. They've had a lot of close games this season.
Just a few plays away from being probably a top 15 team in the country. So they played a tougher schedule than Mizzou. It's the third straight matchup against a ranked opponent for Auburn. They're coming off a bye week. That would concern me if I'm a Missouri fan. The line has actually come down from more than a touchdown in favor of Mizzou to 4.5. But you always get a little concern about a team that has a bye week, has so much time to prepare, and I think Auburn is going to be ready. I think it's going to be a really tough test for Mizzou.
It really does feel like that. And all the games, it feels like with Mizzou and Auburn over the years, as we all know, whether good or bad, it seems like it's interesting every single time, too. So it'll be interesting to see how this comes out. As of note, too, Mizzou will be without two of their players defensively, Khalil Jacobs and defensive lineman Joe Moore. So that's something to watch for.
And they already lost Darius Smith. And when I talk about Mizzou not being able to recruit, and we'll do this quickly, like a Georgia or an Alabama, if Georgia or Alabama lose a couple of defensive linemen, they plug in a first-round draft choice. And Mizzou just isn't there yet from a depth standpoint. They're very, very good, but if they lose another edge guy, they've got problems.
And they've got to find the way to get Luther the ball.
Yeah.
That to me is what it comes down to. Weiss is actually leading in most categories receiving-wise from Mizzou, but having a chance to get Luther the football is probably, at least in my mind, it's first and foremost on what they have to do to win games.
And Illinois with a chance for a statement game tomorrow. The 22nd ranked Illini hosting the defending champions. They're different, but they are the defending champions. 24th ranked Michigan. That game at Champaign, and that one could put Illinois on the map if they can knock off the Wolverines.
It's a nationally televised game too. They're going to be the 2:30 CBS window. And Josh Whitman is the Illini's athletic director. He requested 3 years ago that the Big Ten would play this game at this time in the season. And Brett Bielema actually has made him the team captain. And the reason was because they had 100 years ago one of the biggest wins in school history, and they're going to go back to these throwback 100 century uniforms and make it a huge celebration. So they'll have that place riled up, and it would be a statement win for the Illini to get that win over Michigan.
It really does feel like that. And you mentioned the dedications. I personally like the uniforms a lot. I know that we talk about the uniforms, a big uniform person, a big uniform show. I think they look really cool.
I think they look really cool. Hey, I want to go back to Mizzou for 1 second. If at any point in your life you would have been told Mizzou would go 18-3 over a 21-game stretch, would you take it?
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
I think if we look big picture, Mizzou's won 18 of their last 21 games, the Mizzou football program. I think we tend to focus on a game by game, which is what we do. But man, 18-3 over 21 games. There's a lot of programs in America that would love to have that stretch.
I would say this, though, is that they should be, though. If you're in the SEC and you're playing some of the cupcakes that they do early, and their schedule is not tough. I mean, think about UMass last weekend. This is now what is expected. You know, the expectations have really changed with the program.
Whenever a Coach Brook would get hired at Mizzou, and it didn't matter who it was, whether it was Woody or Bob Stahl or Larry Smith or Gary, every single press conference, the coach would say, "This is a sleeping giant."
Yes. I mean, you have the midweek. You got Kansas City. You got St. Louis. You have good Midwest kids that are leaving the state constantly.
Yeah.
And the one thing Gary Pinkel did was going down to Texas and understanding he had to go get players, which he did. But you can't let the kids out of the state, in-state, go out of state. And the other part of it is, look at the funding that they're getting now for their program. They're keeping up with the Joneses. That's why you win.
Yeah, I did a Mizzou Tiger Club event last night, and there's more money on the way for the program, too.
Because of all the excitement around the program.
Right.
And Dan, you're exactly right, is that they should be doing this. That is the expectation. And even going into the season, too, I think that a lot of people, though, just feel like offensively, we were expecting maybe a little bit more, that there would be more chemistry, connection between Brady Cook and Luther Burden and even all of his receiver core. I think that was the expectation a little bit more going into the season. And we're still waiting on more of those explosive plays.
But at least we beat Vanderbilt.
That one's looking a little bit better than it was.
Does.
Yeah, and by the way, Boston College doesn't look as great.
No, it doesn't.
No, that changed quickly, didn't it?
Sure did.
But they looked great at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, right.
That's what matters.
Yeah, that's what matters. Brooke, Dan, Randy, coming up, we're going to talk some golf with our buddy Jay Delsing here on 101 ESPN.
This is Rocky with your Sports Center update, driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. Last night, the Blues with a big overtime victory thanks to Jake Neighbors getting the game-winning goal for a 1-0 victory over the Islanders. They'll be back in action facing off against the Hurricanes tomorrow. You can catch that game right here in your home for the St. Louis Blues. 101 ESPN pregame starts at 5 p.m. Last night, in your championship series, I should say, the Yankees fall to the Guardians 7-5 in a fascinating game as the Guardians keep it at 2-1. They'll try to even things up tonight. Game 4 is right here on 101 ESPN, 6:30 pregame. And the Dodgers and the Mets, the Dodgers keep rolling on to a 3-1 lead thanks to their 10-2 shellacking of the Mets. They will go for the elimination of the New York club today at 4:08. First pitch in Week 7 of the NFL kicked off last night. Broncos with a big 33-10 win over the Saints. And you can catch triple header right here on 101 ESPN on Sunday. That is your Sports Center update, driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. See them at londoff.com. Chevy, together we drive. Are you kidding me?
Dan and Randy, the opening drive, and we head to the celebrity line. Our buddy Jay Delsing of Golf with Jay Delsing. Sunday mornings here on 101 ESPN is with us. Jay, good morning. How you doing?
I'm doing great. How are we this morning? How's everybody?
Everybody's doing good. Hey, the Champions Tour still has a couple of stops left, and then they'll crown their champion. Why do you think they make the old guys work harder than the young guys? Why did the regular tour end early, and now the old guys have to go until basically November?
We're fill-ins.
Oh, okay.
We're just fillers. So they just throw the Schwab Cup at the end when there's little other golf, I think, and the old guys are happy to do it, because they're playing for a heck of a lot of money, and what else are they going to do?
I think it's interesting to look at, and I didn't realize this. So the 36 players that play in the season's final event, the Schwab Cup, only those 36 have their Champions Tour card for next year. That seems like it's really tenuous and really pressure-packed.
The Champions Tour is the most closed shop on the planet. They don't want a lot of new guys coming out, and it's really interesting. So the guys that finish somewhere between probably in the top 50, Randy, will still have status, so they'll still get in probably half the events. They just won't know when they're going to get in. So it's going to be a thing like if Stephen Elkert decides he doesn't want to play, then number 37 will get in, and it'll just go on down the line like that. So they'll still get in stuff, but they just won't know their schedule very well.
Jay, there's really tough starts to tournaments, and then there's really, really tough starts to tournaments, like what happened to Joel Damon the other day. He was penalized 4 strokes in the opening round of the Shriners Children's Open when it was discovered on the 4th tee that he had more than 14 clubs in his bag. How devastating was that?
Brooke, this is the most, when you go to like Golf 101, the most elementary thing that you're told is you can only have 14 clubs in your bag. I mean, we've been told this for as long as we've been around, and I don't know what Gino, his caddy, was doing, but that's when we're on the first tee, even with this year at the Ascension Charity Classic, my oldest daughter, Mackenzie, caddied for me, and the first thing she did when we got on the first tee was count the clubs. And so, but the golfers, we just get into these lulls, I guess, because I think, Danny, we had Ian Woosnam on the show, and he talked about the time that, and I think it was in the British Open, so it's in a major championship, he teed off and played like 3 holes with, it was more than one, I think it was 15 or 16 clubs in his bag, and so not only did he wind up throwing that one club in the bushes, but I think he also canned his caddies for that one. So, he did.
That leads me to this. Is it more on the player or is it on the caddy to check the bag before you tee off?
Well, it's more on the caddy, but, I mean, you're still – I mean, when you have an extra club in your bag, you guys, it's like – having 2 sweaters on or something. Here's the challenge, though. There's so much new tech that comes out all the time, and there's so many of the club reps that are constantly asking you to try stuff that we always have are trying a different driver or a different 3-wood, or because stuff changes so quickly, and these reps want you to play their stuff. And it's also getting close to Christmas time. So you got to take a bunch of clubs so that you can get a bunch of Christmas presents for your buddies. And so that's going on too. But it's really mostly on the caddy, but Joel's got responsibility, and of all the dumb things I've done, that's one that I have not done yet. But it's not over. I still have an opportunity to probably do that somewhere along the line.
And it was an extra 4 iron. I mean, come on.
What is that doing in there? Think about that. Like, oh, yeah, it's my lucky 4 iron. I got to hold on to this guy. I never know when I might need it. There's one Canadian. It was not Mike Weir, but he would have a left-handed club in his bag that he would swing as an extra club. And I'm like, oh, that's got nothing but problems. That's dangerous, And, we're just weird. The golfers are strange. I mean, that's a tough one.
Well, Jay, we've got Brant Jobe on this weekend, and his son was the 3rd overall pick in Major League Baseball, their draft. I guess it was about 3 years ago with Detroit, and then Brant has won 16 times professionally. But we also have a couple of St. Louis guys that have a new documentary, if you want to call it that. It's a comedy series, whatever you want to call it, but it's called Scramble on Amazon Prime. And I'm looking forward to visiting with these guys. They're going to come in studio, but St. Louis guys that will have a comedy series on Amazon Prime.
No, Danny, I'm so glad you brought him up. So this show called Scramble, you guys, kind of dives into the personalities of the scramble teams, where guys are trying to like rig their teams, when I was a kid growing up at Norwood, there was an A player and a B player and a C player and a D player for the scrambles, and then each one of that for the corresponding letter, you could be like an A player was a 0 to a 7 handicap, and then a B was like a 7 to a 14, and you had to fit in these slots. Well, they never did. Everybody brought in ringers, and I'm a D player, and the guy shoots like 73. So everybody was trying to stack their teams. And so it's really neat what these guys have done. And what's really cool, Danny, is they film it locally. So they're filming it over at St. Clair Country Club and at the Orchards, which are, just on the east side. And they're using a lot of local guys and a couple members of St. Clair Country Club. And these guys just love golf and are making a fun comedy series. So I can't wait to check out more of the episodes. It's called Scramble. And it's we're supporting some local guys that are doing some fun stuff.
And Jay, Danny mentioned this yesterday. Belated happy birthday.
Yeah, do you remember when 40 was really, really old, and you were like, man, that guy's 40, and now you're like, I'm thinking Randy 70 seems pretty doable now.
We got a shot. I remember you and I were actually doing a show at KTRS when I turned 40, and I thought, man, I'm old. And now here I am,
I remember.
22 years later, and I'm old.
Oh, man, it's just every place I go, like Danny and I were doing some recording, and I look around, and we've got 6 people in the studio. Yep, I'm the oldest by a long shot.
No.
Young at heart,
yeah.
though. Young at heart, and I'll tell you what, the drives look young.
Well, every once in a while I can still hit it, but man, I can't see anymore. So it's got to be going farther, way farther.
Have a great great birthday weekend, Jay. Thanks so much for the time, and we'll talk to you next week.
I appreciate you guys. Have a great day.
Happy birthday, Jay.
Happy birthday, Jay.
Our buddy Jay Delsing. His birthday was yesterday, so belated, and he'll celebrate this weekend. Pretty cool. Great to have Jay with us. Coming up, we've got Take It or Leave It. Send in your text to the Air Comfort Service text line 314-399-9646, 314-399. Yo-ho! We've got TIOLI next on 101 ESPN.
take it. If you don't, send it right back.
Get your text into 314-399-9646 and give us your take it or leave it.
Brought to you by Gloria Lou Realty. Visit GloriaHasTheBuyers.com and start packing.
That's my final offer. Take it or leave it.
Dan, Randy, and Matthew. Time for Take It or Leave It on 101 ESPN. Guys, the Dodgers are in the playoffs for the 12th year in a row. They've played in those 12 years in 4 World Series. They won in the COVID year in 2020. Take it or leave it. For the Dodgers to validate this great run, they need to win a full season World Series.
I will take it. I feel like with the amount of money that they've spent, that's the expectation. Remember what Mookie Betts said at the start of the season is that every game would be a World Series for them?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He did say that.
He did.
And it was, and it has been.
So I take it. I would anticipate that if they win a full season World Series, then it does validate this. If you look at how much money they spend, and again, baseball is random, but for the amount of money they're spending, they've got to win one of these to validate what they're doing.
And even beyond the amount of money they're spending, like the Braves only winning one World Series, only winning one, but they won 14 straight divisions, and they went to 5 World Series, right? And only won one. The Dodgers, they lost the World Series in 17, lost in 18. Now, 17 might be tainted because of the cheating scandal by the Astros. And then they won in the COVID year. So this will be their, if they get there, would be their 4th. I think they do need to win a full season World Series to validate this run of excellence.
I mean, you're paying a guy $700 million.
Yeah, right, exactly.
So you got to validate that some way, somehow, and that means winning a World Series.
So we all agree. Okay, good.
Yeah, spending a lot of money. All right, so take it or leave it. This weekend, obviously, Mizzou facing Auburn. It will be decided by a field goal.
I am going to leave that.
So do I get just 3 points, or it comes down to a field goal?
It comes down to a field goal.
I'm going to leave that, but I think Auburn can cover this weekend. And I know that is going to upset some Missouri fans. Line at last check was 4.5, but Auburn is not as bad as their record indicates.
Line opened at 8,
touchdown,
8 or 8.5 in some places, 7.5 in some spots. It's already down to 4.5. Danny, I saw a 4 this morning. So across the last 4 days, the line has moved anywhere between 3 to 4.5 points. I don't know what to think about that.
Yeah, I know. It makes you, when the line moves like that.
A lot of money and a lot of the heft is on Auburn.
Yep.
So the public's heavy on Auburn. Usually that means it breaks the other way.
Yeah, it can. I watched them in the Georgia game at Georgia. Auburn's pretty good, and
they
their
hung in there.
They did, and their QB is a guy that's been around for a while. There was some talk that maybe he would lose his job. He hasn't, and he's played well. And Mizzou, let's face it, the one team that they faced, they got blown out against. Mm-hmm. I mean, they weren't even competitive in the Texas A&M game. So, yeah, I'll be interested to see how this rolls out. All right, 44% of the runs in postseason play have been scored via the home run. Take it or leave it. If you're going to spend money in the offseason, you're a team that's competitive, it's got to be for slug.
Take it.
Take it.
Yeah, home run hitters.
I mean, I don't know if you really want to go after a big-name starter because they don't go deep into postseason play. They help you get there, clearly. Maybe I invest my resources into lockdown guys, if there is one, but let's say high-leverage guys out of a bullpen. But I better have some kind of slug because that's what's winning games.
And if you have hitters that you believe are going to be 35 to 40 home run hitters, like the Cardinals have said they believe Gorman and Walker are going to be, you need to maximize those guys.
And left-handed batters.
Yep.
That's the other thing. Left-handed batters with power in postseason play, that plays.
You think Burley can have more years like this one?
I do. I think there's more in the tank with power, too.
I do, too. That's what I mean. Can he hit 25?
Yeah.
If he can hit 25 to 30 on a regular basis, that'd be a nice surprise. I don't think the Cardinals expected that.
I look at him more gap to gap, but I think power is there, and it can be as he moves forward in his career.
And Jordan Walker, that's another one where you're looking for that power. And Nolan Gorman. I mean, we looked at this season, of course. You need more power from him.
Definitely.
Hopefully this was just an
need
outlier.
him in the major leagues.
Yeah, I know. That's the thing.
Yep. Matthew, what do you got on the text line?
Take it or leave it. Since this is a jersey-centric show, the Cardinals' Rickwood jerseys / uniforms are the best ones they wore this year.
Those were pretty good. I will leave it, but those are pretty good.
Which one's your favorite?
I think Dan and I both agree the Saturday home cream ones are really
Love
nice.
those.
Oh, those are nice.
Classy.
Yeah.
They look good. I had my annual golf tournament on Monday, and our buddy Mark Walsh donated a bunch of the signed Rickwood jerseys. Those went for a lot. I mean, because they're so unique.
Yep.
And so, thank you, Mark, by the way. But, yeah, those went pretty well.
And the caps, I got one of the caps. That cap giveaway with the blue STL cap
cool.
from the
Those are
Rickwood
really
jerseys.
cool.
Really nice, yeah.
I do like them a lot.
Take it or leave it. Youth sports are getting too competitive, too young.
Take that.
Yeah, I'll take it. And it's obviously not the kids' fault, but when you have coaches trying to get kids to throw max effort when they're 6 or 7 years old, and kids are having to have Tommy John surgery when they're 13 or 14, I would say that we're going a little bit too far.
I'd say it's across the board in sports, too. It's not just that. It's the year-round specialization of sports. I think that's a problem. I think kids need their bodies to rest, go play different sports, make it fun. When's the last time you heard, boy, this is fun? Like a kid came out and just said, boy, I'm having fun. I don't hear it ever.
And this is a long time ago, by the way. I've told this story on the air before. When Patrick was in third grade playing baseball, his coach would light up a victory cigar after they won.
Seriously.
Yeah.
Wow.
Obviously, you don't have a kid, but I could speak to my cousin has 3 boys who are all at the age where they are playing competitive sports. And man, their schedules are insane. I used to be able to see them a lot, but now it's like nearly impossible of even finding a day off for them.
Yeah, and it'd be nice if they could just go back to like you say, Dan, having fun. And the win or the loss doesn't matter. It's improving your skills at the sport.
I mean, when's the last time that you had a kid go, man, do you remember that game we had in September? It was awesome. No, they don't. No one cares.
Yeah.
No one cares.
Yep.
Doesn't
exactly.
matter.
Yep.
Drives me crazy.
You see crazy hockey parents. Yeah, I can't imagine hockey with the traveling.
Oh, man.
And the tournaments.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh,
God,
yeah.
I can't even imagine what that's like. My God. Take it or leave it. Pulled pork is better than brisket.
Oh,
Listen,
leave
I'm
that.
gonna read another text really quickly because
Okay.
both of these people need to be thrown into the same cell. Somebody else texted and said, "Take it or leave it." Hofer is obviously better than Bennington and needs to be the number one. Both of these people are brisket and pulled pork. I'm sorry.
Does
They're
the
both great,
iPhone
but-
lie is the first question, because my iPhone, when I start to type in Hofer, puts HOF in capitals.
Yeah, the iPhone does lie because I've never tried to say duck.
Oh, yeah, okay. That's true. Good point. So HOFer, yes. He's clearly, he's got to
Stop
be
it.
because he's an HOFer. Okay, so if given the choice, like if I'm at an event, a golf
No
tournament
way.
that has...
Don't do
Yeah,
this.
no, I do. I take brisket over pulled
well,
pork.
yeah.
Oh,
Okay, good.
yes.
For a second, I thought you were going to say pulled pork over brisket.
I can't imagine a scenario.
Who takes
Not that
pulled
I
pork over
dislike
brisket?
pulled pork. If pulled pork is there and brisket isn't, I love pulled pork, but I take brisket over pulled pork.
Oh, yeah. Pulled pork is good. It's
great.
I love it. If I can do both, then I definitely will do both. But brisket every single time.
Yeah, proud of you.
And that's why these two texts are perfect to go together because, again, much like our boy, Joel Hofer, pulled pork is incredible. But unfortunately for both Joel Hofer and pulled pork, brisket, a.k.a. Bennington, is simply the superior grade A choice every single time if I have to make a choice between the two.
Dan McLaughlin needs to weigh in here. We haven't heard your take here.
On which one?
It's a huge take.
The pulled pork?
versus brisket. yeah.
Brisket.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I love brisket.
Take on if
And what-
Bennington is brisket.
That's what I was
Is he
trying to,
brisket?
I'm just trying to follow
Sorry, did you not
along
like,
here.
did you not like the analogy?
What about Benner versus HOFer?
I would say, well, first of all, the one guy's got a Stanley Cup ring.
true.
There it is.
So
That's
I'm
brisket.
going to lean towards that way, and he's been the number one goalie here for a number of years, so I'll probably lean towards that way. I will say this, though. I would put the tandem in the top 5 in the NHL.
I would too.
You're not going to lose a lot when Hofer's playing. He's been that good, and he's getting better.
And I'm taking Benner also.
Yeah. Who's ribs in this situation? Well, it would be a different goalie, but
Colton Parayko.
I do like ribs a lot.
I think ribs are after brisket. I would go brisket, ribs, pulled pork. In that order. Am I wrong?
I'm
I
just
probably
taking
do
it in.
brisket,
Okay.
ribs, pulled pork.
Somebody says, take it or leave it. We need to get Joey Vitale to call him Jordan Biscuit Bennington at some point.
Okay.
Brisket Bennington,
We'll work
excuse
on
me.
that.
Brisket Bennington. And we just don't explain it to Jordan.
No.
All right, you got one more? Or is that it? Are we done with the fun? Fun and frivolity.
We're done with the fun and frivolity.
Fun and frivolity.
Actually, take it or leave it. Broberg gets a big extension from Doug Armstrong.
Well, he's got the 2-year deal right now. I don't know what the rules are in terms of providing him an extension, but at some point he will get a big extension from the Blues.
I love him paired with Justin Falk.
Yeah, me too.
I mean, those two guys together just look to be the best pairing so far early this year. Probably before I give him an extension, I want to see him play a little bit. So we'll see him over an 82-game season.
But the reason why he was signed to a 2-year deal for more than $8 million, he's already displayed the skill set. We don't know if he's going to become a number one, but he certainly has all the skills to become a number one.
Love the way he skates.
Yeah.
I mean, he can skate, man. There's just some guys that you watch on the ice and you're like, that catches your attention and how they move. He's one of those guys.
Great vision, as we saw last night on the pass. Plays a simple game. Bob Plager would appreciate his game. And
he would.
Yeah, he would.
He really would.
Yeah, so I appreciate what we see so far of Philip Broberg. All right, thank you very much for your texts. We do appreciate them. Coming up here on 101 ESPN, how important is Mizzou's game against Auburn? That's coming your way here on the opening drive. Hey, I want you to know what's going on with my friends at Hoffman Brothers. You know, it is cold right now, and you don't want to ensure your heating system is ready. You do want to ensure your heating system is ready, and you don't want to wait. If you notice any strange smells or noises or uneven heating when you do turn your furnace on, Hoffman Brothers is there to help. For a limited time, take advantage of 0% financing for 60 months on complete HVAC system installations. Schedule your heating check today for peace of mind before the cold hits. The number for Hoffman Brothers, 314-664-3011, or visit hoffmanbros.com. Now, your appointment must be scheduled before the 31st, before Halloween, and completion date set at your discretion. Hoffman Brothers is a proud independent American Standard heating and air conditioning dealer. We got our furnaces replaced a couple of years ago by Hoffman Brothers and couldn't be happier with the experience. So if you find out that you do need a new furnace, Hoffman Brothers is the only company to get in touch with. 314-664-3011 or on the web at hoffmanbros.com.
perspective on the day's top stories. It's the Opening Drive's Fresh Take.
In St. Louis, time check brought to you by Clarkson Jewelers, an officially licensed Rolex jeweler. Next segment, we'll talk to our friend Joe Vitale. Mizzou takes on Auburn tomorrow. Mizzou 5-1 on the season. They do have a bad loss at Texas A&M, and then they came back and they won. We've almost forgotten the fact that they beat UMass and did so handily. But they
why would you forget that? That was a signature win.
Well, it was a win, and
yeah, all 10,000 of them enjoyed it.
Yeah, right. But it's almost as if people are still focusing on the game against A&M rather than the fact that that was 2 weeks ago. Now you take on an Auburn team that's 2-4. They have not thrown the ball as well as a typical Hugh Freeze team does. Peyton Thorne, their quarterback, the Michigan State transfer, has only completed 59.7% of his passes, 10 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, and turnovers have been a bugaboo for the Tigers, Auburn Tigers against Mizzou Tigers. The big thing for Mizzou tomorrow is going to be to get after Peyton Thorne. You've got to get after their quarterback first and foremost, regardless of what happens with Brady Cook and with the running game. This game is going to be won. If it's going to be won by Mizzou, it's going to be won on the defensive side of the football.
And that's why I was saying that it feels like this is a matchup of two teams really trying to prove that they're better than what they have shown so far, because it just feels like Mizzou, the expectation-wise going this season, we talked about this, I was expecting more offensively from this team. And I'm not taking away what Nate Noel has been able to do, what Brady Cook, Luther Burton, but with this receiver core, with the weapons that Brady Cook has available, I think a lot of us, including myself, were expecting maybe some more explosive plays. It feels like chemistry-wise, Cook is still not connecting with some of his top receivers on this team. And so we're just continuing to wait for those explosive plays, because in the SEC, and especially when you're looking ahead to playoffs, you do need that. And when you look at Auburn, too, you look at their record and you say 2-4. And it's like, why are we thinking that this is a team that might be hard to beat? Well, it is the turnovers. And the turnovers are a huge issue because they're averaging, I believe, like 2.5 turnovers per game right now, which is really bad for them.
They've lost 15. 9 interceptions and 6 fumbles.
But if you have been watching those games with Auburn, and Dan, you pointed this out, they're way better than what their record shows. And if they can clean up those turnovers, which is, of course, something they haven't been able to do, this is a different team than what their record is.
Yeah, it's probably 2 to 3 plays, and then they win some of those games. I guess this is when it gets real. If you're a Missouri fan, you're going to find out just how good you are this year, because you have Auburn tomorrow. You go on the road at Alabama. You return home, you've got Oklahoma, then you go to South Carolina, then you go to Mississippi State, and then you wrap up after Thanksgiving against Arkansas at Missouri. This is it. I mean, this is your season. You have one loss coming into this. You thought you'd be undefeated, potentially going into Alabama. And if you are to be a team that's considered top 15, let's say top 12, you want to be in that college football playoff, you have to win games like tomorrow. It's homecoming. You'll have a packed house. Place will be going nuts. Nationally televised audience. And see if they can't amp it up. I mean, I know Auburn's coming off a bye week. Last week seemed like a bye week for Mizzou, so you should be ready to go against Auburn.
Do you think there's a team in college football that is invulnerable, that just is unbeatable?
I thought it was going to be Ohio State, and then they go to Oregon and lose.
Yeah, I know. Yep. Well, I mean, even in the SEC, is there truly a bad team in the SEC right now?
No,
it feels like it's way more competitive than ever.
Yeah. Who here would be surprised if Georgia would beat Texas tomorrow?
Not at all.
Not at all.
I kind of would be. And I hate to admit it, but like Georgia didn't, like right out of the gate, they just didn't look like the dominant self. And then, you know, obviously they now have the blemish. And as soon as you said it, I was like, I hate myself for this, because I'm always perpetually horns down.
Yeah.
Perpetually horns down.
Always horns down.
But I think it's I think it's if I had to put I don't know if Georgia's going to beat Texas, and I would kind of be surprised.
I would not be surprised.
Down.
Yeah.
No, but that because of the way that college football and how things have gone this season, you really can't predict anything for any of these teams, including Vanderbilt. I wanted to ask you guys this because it seems like the national perspective is a little bit different when it comes to Alabama and their performance against Vanderbilt as opposed to Mizzou and their performance against Vanderbilt. It seems like now people are buying into Vanderbilt being a better team, but remember, not too long ago when Mizzou One, in overtime against Vanderbilt, it seemed like, oh man, Mizzou really struggled against Vanderbilt of all teams. But now it seems like that narrative has changed because of what happened with Alabama and Vanderbilt.
I think that's completely understandable because Mizzou and Alabama are just completely different animals because of what Alabama's done over the last 17 years. But I'm really glad that Vanderbilt beat them because it validated them taking Mizzou into overtime. That Mizzou victory in overtime looks a lot better now than it did the day it happened.
And Alabama was coming off a huge win against Georgia, too. So you couple the fact that they're the number one team in the country, that was part of the equation as well.
And going back, by the way, to Georgia and Texas tomorrow, that's one of the reasons that I think that Georgia has a good chance to win because Texas won their biggest rivalry game. They beat Oklahoma, and their kids have been told all week how great they are, and they're still kids. And at some point, really good college football teams think they're better than they really are, and then they get punched in the mouth.
There's another game that no one is really talking about that could rock the college football playoff tomorrow, and it is the aforementioned Crimson Tide. They go to Tennessee.
Yeah.
I mean, that, Alabama could be a two-loss team. Tennessee could someone's going to walk away with a couple losses and knock them out of the college football playoff potentially.
Do you guys think that a 9-3 team would be able to make the playoffs this year? And I'm not saying who that 9-3 team might be, but look at Alabama, the rest of their schedule. They have a really tough schedule coming up for them, by the way. You mentioned, Dan, Tennessee, but then they also have to face still. They have LSU. They also have Mizzou as well. And they have one other one, Oklahoma, Auburn. So they still have a pretty tough schedule. What do you think about a 9-3 team making the college football playoffs this season? Does that seem out of the question now with all the parity there is in college football?
Georgia lost by a touchdown at Alabama, 41-34. If they go in on the road and lose to the number one team tomorrow in a close game, and then they're at Ole Miss on November 9th, and then they've got Tennessee on November 16th. I could see Georgia making it if those are the three losses they have, and especially if Tennessee winds up beating Alabama, and your three losses are to, at the time, number one Alabama, then number one Texas, and then a really good Tennessee team. I could see a 9-3 Georgia making the playoff. Absolutely.
And that was the team I was going to look at, and it's because of the fact that they've had to go on the road to Alabama, have to go on the road against Texas, and those two teams are either one or two at the time when they faced them. And that would, to me, if you're going to have a three-loss team, it's going to come from the SEC, and you'll have to look at the schedule and where they played and the team that was ranked at that time. And how they matched up in those games. I mean, Georgia led with, 5 minutes to go in that game against Alabama. So, Georgia would make sense to me.
Do you think that this changes to how colleges will approach their scheduling? Because, Dan, you mentioned it. I mean, a lot of teams, and Mizzou's not the only one where you put some easier teams on your schedule. And, of course, every team will have at least one easy cupcake on their schedule. But now looking at the college football playoffs and all the different teams that are now have this opportunity available to them, it makes sense that you kind of have to have a tougher schedule to kind of prove your strength of schedule going into the playoffs.
But when the SEC goes to a 9-game conference schedule, you have to have at least one cupcake on there because you can't risk losing to a Power 4 because you're already going to have a couple of losses in the SEC. I think you need to put wins on your schedule first and foremost.
I wonder if this is the new look that we're going to see in football where you still have the blue bloods, but you're going to see more and more because of NIL and the transfer portal that some of these teams aren't as bad as we think. 5 years ago, 10 years ago, fine. Look at them, and they're just not as good as we know or think. But now with the transfer portal and the way that things are playing out in college football and in college basketball, you're going to see a lot more teams get in the conversation.
Right. And to that point, the first question we had, how important is Mizzou's game against Auburn? I believe if Mizzou beats Auburn and loses to Alabama, but wins out and does so in reasonably convincing fashion, that they could be on the edge of the playoff. However, if they lose to Auburn, I don't think it matters what they do the rest of the season, even if they beat Alabama. If they lose to Auburn at home, I think their playoff chances are by the boards. I don't think that they can be in the playoff.
Yeah, it changes everything. It'll be interesting to see how it goes this weekend because, like I said, I think this Auburn team is way better than what their record shows.
Auburn is unranked, too. I mean, that's the other thing is when you take on a ranked opponent and Alabama's number 7. Oklahoma is now not ranked. I mean, you're talking about blue bloods, but, guys that aren't teams that aren't number 1 in the country where that gets your attention. But when you have one-loss teams like Alabama come and just whoop you, takes you out of the equation.
That's today's Fresh Take on 101 ESPN. Coming up, the Blues win last night, and they host the Hurricanes tomorrow night. Joey V joins us next on 101 ESPN.
Talking everything St. Louis Blues as we head into the Blues booth on 101 ESPN. Presented by Boardwalk Hardwood Floors. Find your perfect new floor at boardwalkhardwood.com.
One of my favorite people in the world is Joey Vitale, who joins us now on a Friday morning on 101 ESPN. Of course, our Blues analyst here on Blues Broadcasts on 101 ESPN. Good morning, Joey V. How you doing?
Hey, Randy. I'm doing really well today. Thank you for asking. How are you guys?
Everything's going very well here, and let's start with this. Does it feel to you, because you've paid attention to climate change and science, and you're a curious guy, does it seem to you that we just kind of skipped the 40s and we went from like 50-degree weather to 30-degree weather?
Yeah, honestly, it does. there was that huge global warming push. And I don't get into politics or any kind of, environmental stuff. But I don't know. We wake up on some days where it's so cold, and I'm like, man, I don't know. I don't know about this global warming thing. Maybe it's just kind of a stick at some other things for a different agenda. But I don't know. I do. I miss that fall little weather. Even this week, it's freezing in the morning, then you got to take a jacket off in the evening. It's up and down. It's St. Louis. One thing is for sure, we are used to it, and I never thought I would miss the cold. But being out in Arizona for the 4 years when I was out there, I'm not going to lie to you, I do miss the seasons, and I think a lot of retired people when they go to Florida and Arizona or California, they say the same thing. So while I miss the warmth, I miss the fall weather, it is nice to have a little bit of a chipper bite in the ear, if you could say.
All right, important follow-up question. Who controls the weather? No, I'm just kidding. I'm not going to do that to you, Joey. We're going to switch to something else because obviously the Blues, with a win last night, especially there towards the end, great puck passing, obviously there by Joel Hofer and Broberg, and then Jake Neighbors leading up to that. What a great sequence that was.
It was an incredible sequence, and, we said on the broadcast last night, but it was going to take 3-on-3 to break this game open. 5-on-5, it might as well have been 12-on-12. There was just nothing available. You knew it going into that game. Any Lou Lamoriello team, is going to be structured. They're going to defend well. They're going to take away the middle. They're going to have high forwards to not allow any odd man rushes. And it was important for the Blues to match that, especially coming off the Minnesota loss in their home opener that, they were a little embarrassed by. And they came out with a really, really nice response. They defended just as well as the New York Islanders. You started seeing chances open up a little bit more as the game went on because that typically is what happens, second, third period when players get a little bit tired. And, it took overtime. But you go back to that sequence, it was back and forth, puck possession either way, chances back and forth. And finally, Joel Hofer, even before he makes that pass, if you remember right, he makes a save and he quickly dishes it out to Robert Thomas. Even though they were tired, he still quickly moves it out to him to get possession instead of smothering that puck. And then it's a face-off and it's a 50-50 buck. So just the intelligence, the wherewithal, the gamesmanship of the decision-making he made, not only through the whole game, but especially in overtime. But you're right. He catches the Islanders on a change. He picks his head up. A great little deflection off the wall to Broberg, who sets it up for the game winner. Another point for Broberg, the first of the year for Jake Neighbors. And, it was a wonderful cherry on top of the sundae, if you will, for Joel Hofer, who, aside from that play, had just a terrific night and got the shutout at home ice.
What have you thought, Joey, of the combination of Broberg and Falk? It just seems like they're a perfect match so far.
They've been great. So much, Dan, that I think you look at the way that you lose Nick Leddy, and typically what would happen then is you move the second D up to the first pair and then the third up to the second, and you bring someone in on the third. But what did they do? They kind of leapfrogged Broberg, and they moved Suter, who was on the bottom pair, all the way up to the top pair. And that kind of goes to show you two things. Number one, yes, Suter is fully capable of playing top pair minutes. He did it as recently as last year with Miro Heiskanen, one of the best defenders in the league, playing 22, 23-plus minutes a night. But also it goes to show you the trust and the confidence that this coaching staff has on their second pair, right in the middle of the pack with Falk and Broberg. Falk, a right-handed shot. I think he's defended extremely well over the last 2 years. To me, throughout stretches, he was my most valuable player last year. The consistency just continues to be important for him, and he's found it, especially when he's healthy. And Broberg's come in, and he's been more than advertised. You get him to the offer sheet. One of those offer sheets, not to say that, Dylan Holloway wasn't going to be matched as well, but of the two, I think that a lot of people were thinking that Edmonton would at least want to try to match this Broberg one because of how good he was. I think, he's in Edmonton. He's a player that is kind of in the shadows of Darnell Nurse and Bouchard, two just prolific defensemen in the Oilers organization. So he's kind of hanging around, waiting for more ice time, waiting for more of opportunity. And now you go to a new team where the opportunity's there, and he's finally grabbed it. So he's a mature kid beyond his years. He's got a huge, long career ahead of him. This could be one of the most spectacular moves that Doug Armstrong, next to the trade with Ryan O'Reilly. I mean, we're talking that type of caliber. His trade with Ryan O'Reilly obviously brought St. Louis a cup. this Broberg deal is right up there in my book. I know it's early, it's a small sample size, but you look how young he is, you look how he skates, you look at his decision-making for a young player, his confidence with the puck, and right now he's finding the offensive numbers as well. So this has been such a slam dunk, and I'm really excited to see this kid grow with the St. Louis Blues uniform jersey on.
Joe Vitale with us on 101 ESPN. And Joey, you listen a lot, and so you know that we do not shy away from controversy here in the opening drive. And we've got one this morning, and maybe you can help us out a little bit. Pulled pork versus brisket.
Cold pork versus
pulled pork versus pulled pork versus brisket.
Cold pork.
Well, I was gonna say cold pork. I would say here's the dilemma. The dilemma is that most people can pull off a pulled pork. Brisket is, as you guys know, brisket's hard to nail.
Mm-hmm.
You guys ever tried smoking a brisket before?
It is hard. It's difficult.
It's not easy, and you got to get the right cut. You got to have a good fatty layer on top because that obviously that fat kind of slowly kind of drips through. But brisket, I've had really, really good brisket. I've had really, really bad brisket. But pulled pork, I feel like it's just kind of that you can kind of anyone can do it. Put it on a slow cooker. So if I'm not sure if this answers your question. When I get a really good brisket, to me, that's the slam dunk. That's the home run because it's so difficult to do. But listen, I love a good pulled pork sandwich. My mother-in-law makes a terrific one. She puts coleslaw. You guys do coleslaw on your pulled pork? It's kind of a Southern Memphis thing.
I'm not averse to coleslaw. Brad Thompson once had a minor league teammate whose nickname was Coleslaw.
Oh.
And, and you know why? It was because nobody likes coleslaw.
Oh. Well, hopefully you're not gonna name who that was.
No.
I like the coleslaw, Joey. Now, okay, give us then your top 3 of barbecued meats. So anything from ribs, pulled porks, whatever, how you would rank them.
Yeah, well, first, you're right. First of all, coleslaw by itself, it doesn't. Yeah, stand alone. I don't think anyone. I always get so mad at the people that bring coleslaw to a barbecue or a family or potato salad. Like, come on, people, let's put a little more effort than just slicing up or shaving some vegetables and throwing some mayo on them. Brooke, I would say brisket is definitely a top 3. Barbecue ribs are certainly up there. Burnt ends I love burnt ends. Have you had those? Burnt ends, when those are done right, those are also a slam dunk for me. But I would say for a barbecue, a good nice Zizitza from the hill, my good friends at Digigorio's, throw those on the grill with some olive oil, to me, and a little bit of barbecue sauce on the side. That is my absolute barbecue dream. And it's hard. Zizitza's hard to nail, and there's only a couple people on the hill that can do it. Urzi's does a good job. Digigorio's are fantastic. You get a nice hot grill with some barbecue on the side of Zizitza, you'll die and thought you went right to heaven.
Hey, Joey, one more thing, and this is of a serious nature. You and your family laid your father to rest on Monday, and after your father, Sam, passed away, I had so many people, especially from his industry, the concrete and construction industry, that came to me and talked about, unprompted, what a great human being your father was. And I told you this already. He was beloved by his competitors, and I think that's probably the highest compliment that somebody can get. But our thoughts and prayers are with you and your family on the loss of your father, Sam, who was just a great human being.
Well, Randy, I really appreciate you, Dan and Brooke. I really appreciate you all chipping in and saying that. And, one of the, it's hard to talk about, but, Randy, you showing up last week. I was with my dogs. I had my youngest, he was mowing the lawn. He was naked on his tractor, and I had my middle son trimming, and it was just a chaotic day a couple of days after he had passed. And when you showed up with a carrot cake, it's something I'll never forget. And it's the small gestures. I know it took a lot of time and a commitment to you on your end, but it meant the absolute world to me. And trust me, I was stress eating that day, and we polished that carrot cake off with no time at all. And so thank you for that. My dad was he ran VJ Concrete for the longest time, and at one point 450 employees, and it wasn't an easy business. And anyone who's poured concrete, been in the construction world, it's a stressful one. And that's the thing about my dad. He was always under stress. He was always in this competitive mode with other businesses, but he handled it with such grace, and that's what I applaud him so much. And that's the feedback I've gotten from people is how can you be a boss of such a big company but also be such a genuine human? And he just found a wonderful way to do that. And that's a testament to all of us out there who are in the work world or the competitive world or whatever it is. You can be competitive, but you can also do it with grace. And I played along with Sidney Crosby. He was a perfect example of that. A wonderful gentleman. And, I think of all the things my dad embodied. I opened his binder the other day. He has a binder of Bible verses and quotes. And I opened it up after he passed away, and the very first page is really exactly how he lived. And I'll leave you guys with this. His first page, which I, of course, saved, he said it's better to light one candle than curse the darkness. Better to light one candle than curse the darkness. And that's how he lived his life. Where we got darkness all over us, there's people that are upset about this or complain about this. You look at the politics, you look at the sports world, sometimes things are up, sometimes things are down. There's a ton of darkness around, and we have an opportunity to bring one little light to that darkness. And I really applaud my dad for doing that. And we all have that opportunity to do that, whether it be a carrot cake dropping off at a friend's house or just a friendly smile. So I'll leave you with that. I know we got off the rails there a little bit, but I do appreciate you bringing that up, and I want everyone out there to have just a wonderful day.
All right, Joey V, thanks so much for the time. We appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
Take care. Have a good weekend. Joe Vitale with us. And clearly, as we know and hearing Joey V every week and being friends with him, the apple did not fall far from the tree because Joey V is as good a human being as you'll ever run across.
He really is. And Joey, for his family, will be thinking of them and praying for him and his family during that really tough time.
Yep. Coming up, we've got the fight, and we need a fighter. If you'd like to participate, all you need to do is text in 314-399-9646, 314-399-YO-HO with your name and the word fight, and maybe you will fight me next on 101 ESPN.
This is Rocky with your Sports Center update, brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling. Supposed to do it on the last one. Blues with the win, 1-0 over the Islanders with a game-winning goal from Jake Neighbors in overtime. They are back in action, facing off against the Hurricanes tomorrow, right here on 101 ESPN. Your home for the St. Louis Blues. Pregame starts at 5 p.m. for that early game. Last night, Major League Baseball playoffs. The Yankees fall to the Guardians 7-5. In a crazy fashion, and Cleveland forces a Game 4. That'll be tonight on 101 ESPN. 6:30 is your pregame time there. And the Dodgers over the Mets 10-2 as they are trying to walk away with that series. They are now leading 3-1, and they will go for elimination today. It's the early game with a 4:08 first pitch. That is your Sports Center update, brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling, an independent American Standard heating and air conditioning dealer.
Welcome to the fight. In the red corner, Average Joe Listener. And in the blue corner, the undisputed king of morning drive. Please welcome Randy Carricker.
Welcome back to the opening drive. Brooke, Dan, Randy, and Rockio here, and it is time for the fight. And our fighter this morning is Sean. Sean, how are you doing?
Doing well. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, is this
stay
your
warm out here?
Oh, I'm sorry. What did you say?
Just trying to stay warm out here.
Oh, you're outside right now.
Oh yeah, cutting grass.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, you have to have the yard ready for it. Sounds like a beautiful weekend, but it's still a little bit chilly. Is this your first time facing Randy in the fight?
It is my first time with Randy. Yes.
Nice. Any advice, Stan, for him in this one?
No, just stay warm and make that grass and lawn look beautiful.
Oh, that's my best.
Okay, buddy. Good luck.
Thanks, man.
You got it.
Are you ready for question number 1, Sean?
Yep.
Okay. In Game 6 of 2011, 3 different Cardinals tallied RBIs in the wild final 3 innings. Obviously, Freese and Berkman had their moments, but which other Cardinal worked a run home in the 10th inning? Was it Daniel Descalso, Alan Craig, or Ryan Theriot?
Oh, I think I'm going to have to go with B, Alan Craig on that one.
Is that your final answer, Sean?
We're final. We'll stick with it.
Who is the only Blues defenseman to score more than 70 points in a season for the Note, and doing it all in just 71 games? Was it Jeff Brown, Al McInnes, or Rob Ramage?
Oh, man. You have to go with Al. It's got to be Al.
All right, you're going Chopper. Is that your final answer?
Final answer.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Here's question number 3. The highest number for Blue shutouts is 15 in the 2011-2012 season. Which goalie tandem set that record? Is it Elliott and Allen, Binnington and Husso, or Elliott and Halak?
Got to be Elliott, the Moose, and Allen. Final answer, lock it in.
Okay, so you're going with A.
Elliott.
Okay. Well, there's 2 Elliots on this, so you're going Elliott Allen, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, sorry. Easy to be confused. Elliott and Allen.
Okay. All right. One of the best NFL records was set on this day in 2009 when this QB threw 5 touchdowns in 1 quarter. Who did it? Was it Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, or Drew Brees?
Final answer, C, Drew Brees.
Okay, Sean, let me go grab Randall.
Thank
How are you feeling, Sean? Other than cold?
Not great.
No?
We'll see. It's up in the air. I gave the old college try. Megamine's hard to beat.
There you go. What other plans do you have this weekend other than getting the grass ready?
I think we have a shrimp boil birthday party tomorrow afternoon with my wife and my beautiful children, and do some Halloween stuff, finish the decorations. You get yours up yet?
No. Yeah, I have not gotten my Halloween decorations yet, Sean. I need to do that this weekend. I don't know how much there will be left over. It'll be slim pickings out there for sure.
Of course, but still got to get festive.
I know. All right, here's Randy right now. Randy, say hi to Sean.
Sean, good morning. How you doing?
Doing well. How are you? Good morning.
Doing great, thanks. And I am glad that you joined us. Thanks for listening. Thanks for playing.
You're welcome.
He is getting the yard ready. He also has some preparations for Halloween, a shrimp boil this weekend, so he's going to have a great weekend.
What a fun weekend. Do you have any, 13-foot tall Halloween decorations that you put in the front yard? Sean?
Oh, he put his mic down.
Oh, okay. Okay. Do you have any 13-foot tall Halloween decorations?
Those are just a little too much for my Uncle Randy. I just don't want to. No.
Okay.
Got to leave those there.
I understand. I want to do that. I've never done that, but I want to get a couple of those 13-foot tall.
A couple of them.
Yeah.
They're fun to drive past and look at.
Yeah, right. So we'll try it.
No, I feel like you have to do that this weekend, Randy, because you keep talking
Right.
about it.
I'll
now
work on
is
that
time.
tomorrow. Yeah.
All right. You ready for question number 1?
Ready.
In Game 6 of 2011, 3 different Cardinals tallied RBIs in the wild final 3 innings. Obviously, Freese and Berkman had their moments, but which other Cardinal worked a run home in the 10th inning?
So you started off with Jay and Descalso, and then you had the intentional walk. So this is the 10th inning. You've got Berkman, you've got Freese, obviously. In the 10th, Albert got walked to get to Berkman. So somebody hit a ground ball. Who was it? It was it who got the bunt down? Was Kyle Loesch got the bunt down? And then you bring up Descalso, Loesch. Oh, I'll do the lifeline, but I think I know. Go ahead.
Okay. Daniel Descalso, Alan Craig, or Ryan Theriot?
Okay, this doesn't help me an awful lot, but I think I'll go with the Riot.
Ryan Theriot?
Yes. Theriot, the Riot.
Are you ready for question 2?
Ready, Dan.
Who is the only Blues defenseman to score more than 70 points in a season for the Note, and doing it all in just 71 games?
70 points in 71 games. There's only 2 people that could be on this list. And I think I'm going to go with Chopper, even though I think Jeff Brown might have. Jeff Brown, he had the goals record. I'm going to go with Chopper, though. I'm going to go with Al McInnes.
On to question 3.
All right.
Question 3. The highest number for Blues shutouts is 15 in the 2011-2012 season.
Mm-hmm.
Which goalie tandem set that record?
I'm going to go with Yaroslav Halak and Moose, Brian Elliott. I'm going to go with those 2. I believe they won the Jennings Trophy that year, if I'm not mistaken, which is the goalie tandem with the fewest goals allowed.
That may happen this year.
It could happen, yeah. With
They're
this
going to have a
pair,
shot.
I could see it, yeah.
Okay, question 4. Mm-hmm. One of the best NFL records was set on this day in 2009. When this QB threw 5 TDs in 1 quarter. Who did it?
Ooh, and I already used my lifeline. 5 touchdowns in 1 quarter.
Yes, sir.
2009. Okay. So I think that I will go with a snow game against Tennessee for Tom Brady.
You remember it was a snow game?
In October. I think it was weird, yeah.
Okay.
I'm going to go with that.
All right. Matthew, time for you to do your thing. That means it's time.
We have a winner in today's fight, Danny Mac.
Yes, sir.
Sean, out in the cold, trying to warm himself up with a victory over Randy Carricker and walk into the weekend a winner. Randy Carricker, on the other chance, just trying to beat a man who's already out in the cold. Seems a little cruel from Randy, if you ask me. But ring that bell.
The winner and still champion of the fight, Randy Carricker.
I'm sorry, Sean. Randy Carricker got you by a score of 3-0 in today's fight.
Oh, man.
Yeah,
I thought I had
sorry.
won.
Yeah,
all right.
My bad. I made it a little tricky today. And
It's all your fault,
yeah,
Mark.
it's
It's all your fault.
and I will wear that 100%. In Game 6 of 2011, 3 different Cardinals tallied RBIs in the wild final 3 innings. Of course, you got Freese with his 2 different hits. You got Berkman with his big hit, and it was, in fact, Ryan Theriot who grounded out to the third baseman, which was worked over to the first baseman. Daniel Descalso was able to score on that fielder's choice, so Ryan Theriot gets the RBI there in the 10th. And, of course, Lance Berkman would come up 2 batters later, as Randy correctly said. Albert Pujols was walked walked the next batter to get to Lance Berkman, who's the only Blues defenseman to score more than 70 points in a season for the note. He also set the single-season goal and assist marks for a defenseman. Remember that for later on. And he did it all in just 71 games. It was, in fact, Jeff Brown who beat Al McInnes' record of goals by just one with 25 on his way to scoring over 70 points in that season. Highest number for Blues shutouts is 15 in the 2011-2012 season. It was, in fact, Brian Elliott and Yaroslav Halak who combined for that. Brian Elliott also set the Blues single-season record for shutouts that season with 9. And one of the most unbeatable NFL records was set on this day in 2009 when this QB threw 5 touchdowns in one quarter against the Tennessee Titans. And it was, in fact, Tom Brady. It was a snowy game, and that did not stop a wild Patriots passing attack from going insane on the Titans that day for 5 touchdowns in the second quarter.
Yeah, we didn't really have to bring that up. We didn't have to. I'm trying to forget about that. Jeff Fisher,
so
context.
For some reason, and we will probably never know, but Bill Belichick clearly hated Jeff Fisher. Right? Because every time he played against Fisher,
it was personal.
He would drill. Yeah. But Brady was in the fourth quarter, like 59-0.
It was.
And Brady was in the fourth quarter late.
And they had a great season prior. And then it was just, there were so many bad aspects of that. Kerry Collins, I believe, was still the quarterback at that time. You did have Chris Johnson, but man, what an embarrassing performance.
Yep.
Good memories.
Chris Long, and I don't know who put it up on somebody. Oh, I know. I have it. I'll find it. But Chris Long told a story about how the Rams went to London and got drilled by the Patriots like 45-7. Same thing. Brady is in late in the fourth quarter of that game.
So, how and why do you remember all this?
I remember watching that game, and actually at that time felt sorry for Jeff Fisher. Now he deserves it. But I felt sorry for Jeff Fisher because Belichick was running up the score on him. Now I know that Fisher deserved it. But I remember stuff like that. I just do.
By the way,
I feel bad that I didn't get the Brownie one. Brownie's probably listening, probably cursing me right now.
By the way, Hofer picked up the shutout last night. That's why I threw in a Blues shutout question. I want to throw this out from Matthew DeFranks. Joel Hofer is the only goaltender in NHL history with a shutout plus an assist on the only goal of the game. There are 155 instances of a shutout plus an assist combo, but none in one-goal games until last night.
Wow.
By Joel Hofer.
Awesome. HOFer.
There it is. So thank you so much, Sean, for joining the fight and joining the show today.
Thanks, guys. See you.
Thanks, John. Take care. Coming up here on 101 ESPN, they said, what? Brooks got that for us here on the opening drive.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
What you talking about?
What the hell are you talking about?
What you talking about?
Do you actually listen to yourself when you speak, or do you find you drift in and out?
What you talking about?
Bro, I'm out, man.
Brooke, Dan, Randy, and Rocco here, and it is time for They Said What? Well, guys, it's Auburn Hate Week, and Hugh Freeze might have unwittingly just provided some bulletin board material for Mizzou. Here's his opening statement this week and what he had to say.
I know everybody has their rankings of coaches, and it's based on, and to me, the better talent you have, the better coach you are for sure. And to me, some of the better coaching jobs are done with those lesser rosters in recruiting. And I think you look at people like Eli and Stoops and heck Clark Lee now too, that I think are doing incredible jobs at their respective programs with the kids that they've had, and they've had some time to develop their culture and get their players in. But Eli's, I think he does one of the.
And he's saying there basically that they're doing more with a lesser roster. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of people, especially on social media, the rat poison, as we like to refer to it as the football coaches like to refer to it as, are taking this more as a dig rather than a compliment, because he's saying that these are lesser rosters, but he's actually giving a compliment, I believe, to the head coaches. And it's important to note that Drinkwitz has a very close relationship with Hugh Freeze because they have a common mentor in Gus Malzahn. Now, there's a name you haven't heard in a really long time, right? But they both were mentored by him. Do you guys see this as a dig? Because I could see as a player how you would kind of take it in a different way.
If you're rational about it, you know that Mizzou hasn't had the talent level of Alabama or Georgia or LSU, not just since Eli Drinkwitz arrived, but under Barry Odom, under Gary Pinkel, under Larry Smith, whoever. The reality of the situation is Mizzou has never. And by the way, Kentucky has never recruited with those schools. Vanderbilt clearly has never recruited with those schools. So I don't think it's unreasonable. If you are a linebacker at Mizzou, Sean Weatherspoon was a 3-star player, wound up being a really good NFL player, second-round pick, maybe first-round pick in the NFL. This has nothing to do with the players that are currently on hand and everything to do with the coaching job that the coaches are doing.
I think it's a backhanded compliment.
Yeah, I think it's a front-handed compliment. I think he's legitimately complimenting these guys, and it's not a shot at all at any of the players.
Yeah, and you're not a blue blood, so you're not Alabama. You're not getting some of the Georgia kids, and he's saying he's coaching them up. I really had no problem with that.
No, me either.
No, I don't either. I think it's going to be interesting this weekend, though, because you do have that recent history with Mizzou and Auburn. And so I was thinking about some of the favorite and worst moments between Mizzou and Auburn over the years.
Well, the most recent one that I have is the fumble first of all, the missed kick a couple of years ago, and then the fumble into the end zone. That cost Mizzou an easy victory. They had the victory literally in their hands and fumbled it away because they threw the ball away at the goal line.
That's the one I was thinking of.
Right? Yeah. But then you think about that SEC championship game where they got drilled by that team that had Trey Mason and Greg Robinson. Jared Stidham, I think, might have been the quarterback at Auburn at that time, right?
Yes.
And so that was sad that they got drilled the way they did.
I think over the years, we're going to see some of these rivalries get even better. Like, you got KU, you got Oklahoma, you got you know what I mean? You got some of these Big 12 leftover schools, Big 8 leftover schools. But as this moves forward in the SEC, I think you're going to get better games that just feel different because of the conference that you're in, and you'll feel more of a rivalry with these schools. Now, the part of a rivalry is being very good and going up against very good teams. So could you ever get to the point where Alabama and Mizzou are huge rivals? I don't know. But it is fun to think about what might be in this conference.
But if we have a 9-game conference schedule and it's the 3 rivalry games that you play every single year, and for Mizzou, I don't think that they can fit Tennessee because I think Tennessee has too many other. Because Tennessee's going to have Alabama and Vandy. Who would the other one be? Mizzou wouldn't be a logical third school. Brooke, right? You grew up in Tennessee.
No,
From a rivalry standpoint,
I think that you do have kind of a new rivalry though with Tennessee and Mizzou. I think that it's really fun seeing them play against each other, especially recently. It seems like Drinkwitz and Heupel have like a really good kind of funny relationship with each other. I think that they're friends. I don't know that for sure, but they also kind of have fun poking fun at each other, it seems like, at different times. It feels like that's kind of a rivalry that Drinkwitz likes.
So if you have Arkansas every year, Tennessee every year, Vandy every year, at the very least with Tennessee and Arkansas, you can have legit rivalries. I think it's hard, though, if you play every fifth or sixth year to really develop a rivalry.
Yeah.
And I don't think we'll ever have the opportunity to be we won't play Alabama every year. So if that rivalry does start to exist, it'll have to be with Mizzou rising to the level of Alabama.
And that's what I mean.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to be really good to get that rivalry going. To the point that Brooke made, I think it is a good rivalry right now with Tennessee. And it's probably because of the two head coaches. And you look back at Mizzou drilling them last year and the comments that were made around the game. That makes it fun. Arkansas certainly is a rivalry, in my opinion, just because you're going to play after Thanksgiving every year.
That's always an interesting matchup, too. I feel like fans, though, kind of see it as almost like an artificial rivalry because of the Battle Line Trophy and how they really have tried to push it. It seems like there's still some fans who are resistant to that being the true rivalry.
Would you guys like it better? Would that game mean more if when Mizzou had the home part of it every other year, if the game was played here at the Dome?
I wonder how many people you could get there on Black Friday.
I think you could get more than you would get at Columbia.
Probably right. Yeah.
I would go every other Black Friday tailgate and watch Mizzou and Arkansas. I think that'd be fun. I would make it a tradition unlike any other.
Yeah.
Leftover turkey sandwiches for the tailgate.
For breakfast.
Would you tailgate?
Oh, yeah. I'd
be down there.
You know that I'd have hog, whether it's bacon or ham or something. You know that I would have hog, slaughtered hog.
I love watching that game after Thanksgiving.
I do, too. It's fun.
It's one of my favorites.
I do, too. All right.
By the way, the other possibility for Mizzou in a three-team rivalry, Oklahoma, because of the rivalry from the old Big 12 and Big 8.
Yep.
Yeah, and you have also the recruiting battle, which has heated up, too, in that discussion. Can I give you guys one more? I know that we're a little bit past the clock, but I thought this was a little bit interesting because Colorado star Travis Hunter believes that he should be the Heisman favorite over Boise State running back Ashton Jeanty. Yes, he really did say that, guys, and he pleaded his case on the podcast The Out of Pocket with RG3. Here's his explanation.
I know I can win it, but
Robert
I don't know.
Couldn't win it either.
I don't know who was there. I mean, y'all see Ashton Jeanty, but it's not like we haven't seen a running back that's good.
All right.
We haven't seen a player that plays both ways, and I'm gonna keep saying that. It's like he have 95 carries.
Yeah.
For 1,000
yards. Yeah.
If I had 95 catches, how much yards you think I have?
Okay.
So I'm trying to tell him, like, if I had 95 targets on defense, what you think I'll have?
Right.
If I had 95 catches on offense, what you think I'll have? So I try to tell you, like, he got double the touches I got on the offensive side of the ball, and I still have defensive stats that's still crazy, and we only in week 6.
Yeah.
So, I'm not going to argue about it.
That's interesting. Now, look, from Colorado, I'm expecting all of their players to be extremely confident because that's kind of the identity of their program, right? But Ashton Jeanty, you can't discount what he's been able to do because, yes, he's a running back, but he's a really, really good running back. Did you know this? At his current pace of 208 rushing yards per game, Jeanty is on track to shatter Barry Sanders' single-season FBS record of 2,628 yards and 38 touchdowns set in 1988.
Wow.
He's the Heisman favorite by far.
Over Hunter?
Right now he is, according to FanDuel. He's number one. Then it's Dylan Gabriel, the QB at Oregon. Travis Hunter is third. Cam Ward of Miami, their QB, and then Jalen Milroe of Alabama. I guess the thing with Gentry that would hurt him is, no disrespect to them, but it's Boise State.
Yes.
And it's not Oregon. It's not Colorado. It's not Miami. It's not Alabama. But they can't refute the numbers, and the numbers are pretty amazing of what he's doing this year.
And Hunter, he suffered a shoulder injury here recently. It looks like he will play. It looks like this weekend, but that is one thing that has just set him back. I don't know. Do you think that Hunter will be the Heisman favorite, Randy? Is that who you're going with?
He'd be my guy.
At the end of the season, I think that if I'm voting for the best player in college football, I say that he's the best player in college football right now.
Look at Woodson, what he did at Michigan many years ago under Lloyd Carr, played two ways. I don't know. I mean, you play two ways at Division I, big-time Division I football.
Rare.
Yeah, and you're one of the best players, if not the best player on the field. That's hard to overlook.
It is.
Really hard to overlook for me.
All right, that is They Said What. Coming up next, we have our Rush Hour Reset here on 101 ESPN.
Welcome to Missouri's #1 Mitsubishi dealer.
The biggest stories of the day on the opening drive with a Rush Hour Reset.
Brought to you by James Carlton State Farm. Are your car and home insurance rates competitive?
Find out at carltoninsurance.net.
9:08 in St. Louis. Time check brought to you by Clarkson Jewelers, an officially licensed Rolex jeweler. Brooke Grimsley, Dan McLaughlin, Randy Carricker, and this afternoon, starting at 4, former Cardinal Jack Flaherty can pitch the Dodgers into the World Series as they take on the Mets in Game 5 of their series. Flaherty will be opposed by David Peterson. Last night, the Dodgers over the Mets 10-2, taking a commanding 3-1 lead in that series. Tonight, the Yankees and Guardians will play. Luis Gil will be opposed by the Guardians' Gavin Williams, and a dramatic win last night for Cleveland as they draw within a game in that series. The Yankees still lead 2-1 after the Guardians won last night in 10 innings by a score of 7-5.
Yeah, if you would have told me going into yesterday that it would be the Guardians that had the powerful punch back, I would be absolutely shocked in that one. But that was an instant classic. I know that you guys said that earlier, but it really was. I mean, what a finish by the Guardians in that one. And then going with the Dodgers and Mets last night, the Mets pitching staff has now issued 31 walks through 4 games. And the Mets on the other side have left 20 on base in the last 2 games. 0 for 10 with runners in scoring position last night. I don't know what the Mets can do at this point. I mean, the Dodgers just really have so much depth. What are you expecting in this game?
I think Flaherty will pitch well tonight, and I think the Dodgers will go to the World Series.
Yeah, the Mets' hope is that they can get to Flaherty some way, somehow here in Game 5, and then send Sean Manaea out for Game 6, which then would be a bullpen game for the Dodgers. I mean, that's the way you have to do it. I mean, it's the only way to survive is to get Flaherty out of there and then hope that Manaea is Sean Manaea the way that he's been this season, the second half and postseason play, and then try to do damage against a bullpen start.
The Blues will return to action tomorrow night. They take on Carolina at Enterprise Center. The Blues with a 1-0 overtime win over the Islanders last night. Jake Neighbors scoring the game winner in OT. Great night for Joel Hofer, the Blues goalie, who assisted on the game-winning goal, turned in 34 saves, and the Blues improved to 3-2 on the season with the 1-0 overtime victory.
Yeah, the 3 stars of the game were all seen in that final sequence there. As you mentioned, Joel Hofer, he was just huge and massive in that game, not just with his saves, but also with his puck movement. And you saw that in that final sequence. It was Hofer, it was Broberg, and then it was Neighbors, just all perfectly set up.
So just a crisper game for the Blues, created more scoring chances. Hofer, the 34 saves, but his ability to control the puck and pass the puck, that is something that he brings to this Blues team, and I think Bennington does as well. Jake Neighbors, maybe this gets him going a little bit. Now, he got off to a slow start last year, was playing down. He was a third, fourth line guy. We need to remember that. But this maybe gets him going, playing on one of the top lines. Ryan Suter, can't overlook what he did last night. He played 25 minutes and 10 seconds, second most behind Parayko, who looked very comfortable, that pairing, and then Broberg and Justin Falk. Broberg now 5 straight games of the point, and that combination on defense was really good last night.
The Blues tied for third in the division out. Dallas is 4-1 for 8 points. Utah is 3-1-1 for 7. And then the Jets, Wild, and Blues all have 6 points. Nashville and Colorado are both 0-4. Who would have saw that? I thought that those were the 2 favorites in the division. I still think that they're the 2 favorites in the division, but I'm sure that they didn't foresee 0-4 starts for their squads.
Well, the Avs have had a lot of issues, I think, going into the season, too. Now, Nashville made a lot of moves again, and I was expecting a little bit more out of them, but I mean, honestly, if you're the Blues, that makes you feel a little bit better about things right now.
No doubt about it.
I want to go back to baseball for a moment.
Okay.
The Cleveland-Yankee game yesterday may have been the best game I've seen in postseason play since Game 6 of the Cardinal series.
It was a great game.
Wow. Yeah.
I think it's that good.
Yeah, 4 home runs in the 8th inning or later, and you had the stars coming through, right?
Right.
It was Judge, it was Stanton, and then for Cleveland, pretty much everybody is a no-name, but they get 2 home runs, including David Fry with the pinch hit game-winning homer in the 10th.
And down to their final strike with Noel, who had been really awful and a non-factor since August 31st. He had 1 hit in October. That was it. And he had 13 home runs in his first 45 career games. So you're thinking maybe we got something here. Then from August 31st through the end of the regular season, he hit 113. So you're down to your final strike. He's the guy that does it. You mentioned the Stars going back-to-back with Stanton and Judge. So now if you're the Yankees, you're thinking, man, we got this. Then you had the closers in the game, too. You had Clase, who was been just remarkable in the regular season, having a tough postseason, but Luke Weaver's been unhittable at times. He gives up the home run. Then you got to Clay Holmes, who had been a closer at one point this season. It's just the storylines were just amazing in that game last night.
And I love the call for Big Christmas, too. That was so good. But you're right. And Dan, you asked this question earlier because of what you mentioned with Clase and how good that he has been during the regular season. Now the postseason is a whole different animal in itself, which we all know that, of course. It is a different animal. But for Clase in that situation, it's a little bit surprising just because of how much of a lockdown closer he is. Is that something that is even possible at this point, to have a lockdown closer?
There is no such thing anymore for me. I mean, Rivera was as close as it would get. Ryan Helsley was awesome this year, but at some point somebody gets hit. It's just, it happens, and it's happening at the wrong time for the Guardians. I mean, Clase has given up 7 runs now in 5 games.
Amazing.
He gave up a total of 5 the entire year. It's just one of those things, man. Baseball's weird.
Unbelievable.
And also, one last thought, but the commonality between all 4 of these teams, the slug. And that's something that you really need. I'm just thinking about that, looking ahead with the Cardinals for next season, where that's going to come from.
Yeah, it's got to come from somewhere for the Cardinals. Thursday Night Football, Broncos over the Saints, 33-10. And guys, Dan, maybe you can have your friends check this out, or Matthew, you can check this out. The Chiefs are at the 49ers on Sunday.
Yes.
And the 49ers are a 2-point favorite.
Yeah, 2-point favorite.
When's the last time Kansas City was not favored in a game?
And after a bye week.
Yeah,
Look at what Andy Reid has done after a bye week. They don't lose. I guess, the 49ers are such an interesting team. Without McCaffrey, and they've had an emergence at running back in that position. You're playing at home. I don't know, man. I guess I guess I got to go with the 49ers just because they're at home. But how do you bet against the Chiefs?
I can't.
I can't.
I have to go with the Chiefs in that one because of all those things that you just listed. They always find a way.
They do. They find a way. You wouldn't want to bet against them in postseason play. Maybe you get them in week, whatever it is, 6 or 7, and that's the time that you maybe get the Chiefs one time this year. It's just hard to go against them.
They opened as underdogs in this past Super Bowl, actually.
Against San Francisco.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure if they've been the underdog in any of the last 6 weeks.
Okay. And by the way, Jordan Mason, this is very important for taking shots with Ricky. Jordan Mason was a limited participant in practice yesterday.
That's all you care about.
It kind of is, yeah.
Let's just say hypothetically that you had Patrick Mahomes or Brock Purdy on your fantasy team. Who are you starting? Hypothetically, of course.
I'm going with Mahomes still. Yeah, and I like all the weapons that Purdy has. And by the way, everybody's, aside from McCaffrey, everybody seems to be reasonably healthy. Juwan Jennings didn't practice yesterday, but they've got Ayuk, they've got Kittle, they've got Deebo Samuel, they've got Mason. So all of those weapons are there for Purdy, but I don't know that Purdy makes guys better like Mahomes does. Mahomes makes guys better. He's got Xavier Worthy. He's got Kelsey, seems to be rejuvenated. They've got Juju, who seems to be rejuvenated. I think I would go with Mahomes.
I don't know how I could possibly go against Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
I don't know how you do it. He just finds a way to win.
He's amazing.
They find a way to win.
That'll be a fun game, 3:25 on Sunday. There is your rush hour reset here on 101 ESPN. Coming up, will Nick Leddy's injury and the emergence last night of Ryan Suter change the long-term defensive pairings for the Blues? That's next on 101 ESPN.
Swiss Air Heating and Cooling, the Wizards of Comfort.
Hey everyone, it's Brooke here for Universal Windows Direct. Football season is here, and you know what that means. Fall is here too, and with cooler temperatures on the way, it's time to make sure that your home is ready to go. If you've been dealing with drafty windows all summer, struggling on those crazy hot days, your AC working overtime, now is the perfect time to upgrade with Universal Windows Direct before the cold weather really starts to kick in here soon. Their windows feature super spacer technology, which makes the windows perform better, they last longer, and helps keep your home more comfortable no matter the season. Plus, Universal Window Direct backs it all up with a true lifetime warranty as long as you own the home and a 20-year warranty to the next homeowner. Schedule your free in-home estimate today, and for every 2 windows you buy, get the next 2 for free, plus 0% financing for 60 months. That's 5 years. Restrictions apply. Mention my name and get an additional $250 off your next project. So call this number right now. It's 314-334-2522, or go to uwd.com. That's uwd.com. And like me, you'll be saying, I love my windows.
this Broberg deal is right up there in my book. I know it's early, it's a small sample size, but you look how young he is, you look how he skates, you look at his decision-making for a young player, his confidence with the puck, and right now he's finding the offensive numbers as well. So this has been such a slam dunk, and I'm really excited to see this kid grow with the St. Louis Blues uniform jersey on.
That's Joe Vitale earlier here on the opening drive on 101 ESPN. Broberg with an assist last night becomes the first Blues defenseman ever to get points in each of his first 5 games. First Blues defenseman to do that since Alex Pietrangelo, which is a pretty big statement in and of itself. And with the injury to Nick Leddy and the impressiveness of the Ryan Suter-Colton Parayko pairing last night and what Broberg is doing with Falk, you think there's a chance that Leddy's injury could open the door to a new set of defense pairings for the Blues?
I think so. I think that it's really interesting because Broberg has really just stood out in all of these games this season. He's consistently just out there and noticeable out on the ice with what he's able to do. And you're right. I know I have talked about looking at Broberg and Colton Parayko together, but you brought up a really good point yesterday, Randy, and that it seems like you have to find a nice complementary piece for Colton Parayko, a veteran presence. And so Suter has been handling that, and he looked great in the game last night. But Dan, you also brought up an interesting point earlier that I'm thinking about with Colton Parayko and Suter is how long can Suter handle these minutes on the ice?
Yeah, he played 25 minutes and 10 seconds last night. And as well as he's played so far and as well as he played last night, I just don't know if that's sustainable. I guess time will tell. But you look at how this is wound up with Broberg and Justin Falk. I'm not messing with those two. And if you catch lightning in a bottle with Suter and Parayko, I don't know if I'm messing with that either. And where's Kessel at this point, too? You know, I want to see him take another step as we, talk about some of the younger players that they have on this team. But Ryan Suter over 25 minutes, I did not see that when he got to St. Louis. I saw a reliable guy. He's been around forever, but I didn't see 25 minutes a game. And
he probably didn't either.
I'm saying it, man. That's asking an awful lot, but he stepped up in a big way last night.
How old is he again?
He's 40.
40, yeah. Oldest player in the league right now.
Yeah, that is a lot of minutes for Suter, but he looked fine last night. I think also, too, the Joseph brothers are interesting. P.O. Joseph, I believe that he deserves so another start and another chance here, too. I've been impressed with the Joseph brothers and what they've been able to bring energy-wise to this team.
And I thought it was telling last night that it was Perunovich that sat rather than P.O. Joseph. And we just mentioned Kessel. Needs opportunities to play if he's going to ascend. I wonder if because of injuries, and not necessarily because of play, but play has something to do with it too. I wonder if Scott Perunovich's opportunity with the Blues has passed him by.
After last night, you would think so. I mean, this would be an opportunity to play him, and he's not playing. The other thing, too, I just think it's a fine line if you're Drew Bannister at this point of, yes, you are, and I mentioned this earlier, yes, you are trying to win every game that you can because this is do or you don't. This is the NHL. But you're also looking at developing these young players. And, like Jake Neighbors is an interesting guy. Gets the big goal last night. I look at Bolduc and trying to, he was on the top 2 lines. So, second line last night. You're trying to win games, but then you're also trying to develop. And there's just a fine line of trying to do that at the NHL level, at any pro level.
Broberg just really feels like a steal right now with everything that we have seen so far. And I know that it's still a small sample size, but man, Doug Armstrong deserves a lot of credit for what he's able to do with that. And I thought it was really interesting what Joey V said earlier, too, about that he feels like this is one of the best moves since Ryan O'Reilly.
Yeah, that's a big statement, isn't it?
It is.
And Broberg he hasn't played a full season. That's why I talk about getting reps for guys like Kessel and Perunovich, because what Broberg needed in Edmonton, clearly, was the opportunity to play. And now you got a big guy. We talked about his skill set. If you watch him play, he's got everything you're looking for.
Yeah.
And if you let him play, he can really turn into something special.
So I guess we're talking about not switching up the defensive pairings.
Yeah.
I mean, not at this point.
No, I would plug in Suter. I would keep Broberg where he is with Falk. And I think at some point they do have to give Perunovich an opportunity. Best thing that happened to Scott Perunovich, best thing that should have happened to Scott Perunovich, and you hate to say this, but it was Krug getting hurt because Perunovich and Krug are redundant.
Yes.
Now, all of your right defensemen are big enough so that you can play them with Scott. If you play Perunovich with Kessel Kessel's big enough and rugged enough so that Perunovic should be able to play with him on a third line where they're getting 8-10 minutes.
Yeah, it's just
on
been,
third pair.
Yeah, it's been really surprising with Perunovic because you had those high expectations with him being a Hobie Baker Award winner, of course, but he's just had injury after injury every single season. So even with the chances they've given him, those injuries have really limited him. Can I give you guys something else about Broberg real quick, just to show how good he has been this season? Broberg still has not been on the ice for a goal against as a St. Louis Blue. According to NHL stats, only 5 defensemen in the NHL who've played at least 4 games have not been on the ice for a 5-versus-5 goal against.
Wow.
It's telling.
It is.
That's for sure. It's
and
telling.
Tied with Buchnevich for plus-minus on the team, too, at +4.
618 says, Holloway looks like a hustler, too. I could not agree with that anymore.
Yeah.
That's the one thing I notice about him is just the energy and the hustle, the fact that he comes ready to play every night so far, which has been something that you look at with every player. But I'm with you. I think that's a really valid point as we get used to seeing both Holloway and Broberg in blue sweaters.
I don't know what he'll eventually become, but the way he plays the game would allow him, it seems to me, to be a guy that you could play fourth line, third line, second line, first line. He has played first line. Again, going back to skill set, same thing with Broberg. He does a lot of things well. He's got he's more of a Steen type. He's got a little bit of Alexander Steen in him if he blossoms and turns into what I think he can. But he's clearly got the energy to play and the forechecking ability to play third or fourth line. And maybe we talked about it when the season started. Maybe he could eventually be a 20-goal guy. You never know. I think it's another good signing. Talk about great evaluation on the part of the Blues.
Oh, yeah.
They can't go wrong with these 2 signings of Broberg and Holloway.
Yeah, they really can't. It feels like there's such a high ceiling for both of them, and it really has changed the perspective, too, of going into the offseason, going into the season 2, the conversation of this being a rebuild, but now the expectations have really changed surrounding this Blues team. Would you guys agree with that?
100%.
Yeah, for sure. 314 says, I have an issue at the second line center position. Shocking. I know that's shocking. It just seems Buch is better served on the wing. I was wondering last night how often they would move Buchnevich to the top line. And this is one of the things, if you're Drew Bannister, that I would imagine struggling with, to roll out that top line, putting Buchnevich on a wing where you've got your best skill guys going, and then the drop-off that you'd have on your second line where you're trying to spread out some of that talent that you have. They're going to have to figure that out as they go along here.
And, Brooke, you brought this up yesterday. I think once Mark Teixeira is back, that you give him the opportunity.
That'd be Texier.
Yeah, that's different person.
Oh, okay.
Mark Teixeira signed for $160 million with the Yankees.
It wound up being a good deal because they won a World Series with him.
Won in 09 with him, yeah.
Okay, so Texier, okay.
Texier, yes. I think that when he comes back, that's the answer for your second line center.
Until Dvorsky or somebody else is ready. And I wonder what they do once Sonny is healthy and ready to go. He's skating.
He's not far away.
No, so you get Sundqvist in there, and that might change the dynamic of the center position for the Blues, too. That's Brooke. That's Dan. I'm Randy. Coming up here on 101 ESPN, Week 7 in the National Football League. And we've got storylines for you next.
This is Rocky with your Sports Center update, driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. The Blues with a big win last night in overtime over the Islanders. They will be back in action right here on your home for the St. Louis Blues tomorrow night as they face off against the Hurricanes. It's an early one. Pregame starts at 5 p.m. Also coming up over the weekend, St. Louis City SC will finish off their season as they are not in the playoffs when they face off against Minnesota United. That is an 8 p.m. kickoff on Saturday night. And also Missouri and Auburn are Missouri is facing off against Auburn. Illinois also in action. They have a ranked matchup in the Big Ten facing off against Michigan. That is a 2:30 kickoff for your Illinois-Michigan game and 11 a.m. kickoff for Auburn versus Missouri. That is your Sports Center update, driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. See them at londoff.com. Chevy, together we drive. Are you kidding me?
Time for some NFL news and notes here on 101 ESPN. When the Cleveland Browns left for Baltimore after the 1996 football season, Cleveland moved quickly. They filed a lawsuit to try to get a new stadium, to get a new team, and they promised to build a new stadium. And they did. Cleveland Browns Stadium has been around since about the turn of the century. And this week, the Browns announced plans to build a new stadium in Brook Park, Ohio, about 13 miles outside of Cleveland. They're going to finance it themselves. It's going to cost $2.4 billion. And the Haslam family has decided to allow this multi-million, hundreds of millions of dollars stadium on the lakefront in Cleveland to just go empty. So the Browns, while they're going to apparently stay in the Cleveland region, are, after the lease is up in 2028, going to depart downtown Cleveland and leave for Brook Park, Ohio.
Wow, the Haslams really love wasting money, don't they?
Yes, they do.
That's what they love to do. This is kind of a surprising move. I wonder how fans are feeling about this.
Well, as long as they're spending their own money, I would be okay with it. And it'll be a dome, and that'll allow Cleveland to pursue a lot of things that they don't get now. A brand new dome stadium in Cleveland might allow them to pursue Final Fours and maybe get a Super Bowl and things like that.
So, Randy, educate me and Brooke. Maybe you do know, I don't. But in the Rams situation, they asked for, was it $250 or $300 million from the NFL?
St. Louis did. They wanted $300 million.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, so now Jacksonville, they got that approved, correct?
They did.
Yes.
And it sounds like the Browns are going to get that kicked in as well, right?
Correct, yes.
And St. Louis did not.
No, and, well, the old threshold was $200 million, but then that threshold changed literally the next day when after the Rams were allowed to move, Roger Goodell said San Diego and Oakland could get loans of $300 million.
Wow.
So that's how badly the NFL wanted the Rams out of here, that on Christmas of 2015, Roger Goodell wrote a letter to Jay Nixon, the governor of the state, saying that financing with a $200 million loan from the NFL was fundamentally against the NFL's business plan and model. And then literally 3 weeks later, they did for Oakland and San Diego exactly what St. Louis had determined. And by the way, the NFL had told St. Louis that they would get a $300 million loan, but then when it became clear that St. Louis would have a viable stadium plan, then the NFL looked for every single excuse to get out of it.
$2 billion, you said, for this new Browns stadium?
$2.4 billion.
Wow.
Yeah.
These brand new stadiums are just ridiculous. When you hear those prices, isn't it shocking?
It's unbelievable. Yeah, more than $2 billion. If you're going to build a stadium, it's going to cost more than $2 billion. The one in Nashville is
over $2
more
billion.
than $2 billion. The one in Buffalo going up is more than $2 billion. So every stadium, some 3 times as much as $2 billion. Every stadium is going to cost at least $2 billion now.
What shocks me is just the amount of time in said stadium. It hasn't been that long.
I know, 25 years.
You know, that's the amazing part to me.
Our stadium was outdated after 20. And think of all the relatively new stadiums now that are obsolete. Nissan Stadium, that's not a very old stadium. That opened in 99, right?
Yeah.
So,
and they even made some upgrades to it in recent years too, which costs a lot of money, millions in itself. And then you're putting $2 billion into this brand new stadium. It looks like an Xbox.
Yeah, as the city of Cleveland did too. They poured a lot of dollars into upgrading that stadium, and the lease is up. So the Browns have every right to leave, but at least they're staying in the region. And apparently, the way I'm reading it, they're going to spend their own money to build this new stadium.
So I want to go back to the Saints last night because things are really, really bad for the Saints. Obviously, if you watched that game last night, that was a terrible game. The Broncos are still not exactly a great team, but it's just the Saints are at such a low point right now in their season that I don't know what else happens with the Saints at this point. I know that you have injuries with Derek Carr and your top receivers, but at the same time, what is happening with the Saints and what can they change? Because it feels like you might be getting close here to a teardown. Randy, you mentioned this during the break of maybe you get to the point where you even move on from Alvin Kamara.
My question, if I were in the Saints front office, would be, is my team ever going to be good enough so that Alvin Kamara can impact us as we try to win playoff games?
And in the short term, they're in big trouble. The Saints only have 3 players right now who would save them more than $3 million in the cap for next year. So their current 2025 salary cap position is worse in the NFL. It's the worst in the league. So trying to say that, well, we'll tear this thing down and get it turned around, it's not going to be that easy for him to do.
And you have to give, the way the cap is set up now, same thing with Cleveland with Deshaun Watson. Basically, you just have to give up for a year and cleanse yourself of all of your cap problems in 1 year and then try to rebuild after that. But you're going to have a year where you're going to go 1-15 or 0-16, and it's going to be miserable.
What about Dennis Allen, too? Sorry, Dan.
No, go ahead. He's in trouble.
He is.
Probably should be, maybe after today, he doesn't have a job.
Ooh.
Does it surprise you that Richard Sherman, we talked about this earlier, Richard Sherman on the Prime game yesterday at halftime said, you know what, the defense is trying to get him fired.
Yeah.
That's what they're doing. They're just trying to get him fired.
It sure felt that way. It really did.
And if you're the ownership, if you're Gail Benson, and you hear that, then you have to wonder, okay, if a former player, really good former NFL player is saying that, then I need to take a close look at this.
I'm looking at the NFC North this weekend. All 4 teams recording at least 4 wins. Minnesota will face the Lions on Sunday. I think that's one of the premier matchups, of all of the NFL this weekend. Minnesota, it's not just all what's happening with the quarterback and kind of rejuvenating his career, but their defense leads the league in interceptions. The opposition completion rate is only at 60%. Does Minnesota remain unbeaten going into, let's say, next Sunday? Not this upcoming week, but do they win again this weekend?
That'll be tough, especially against the Lions this weekend. That's what you said, right?
Right.
And then the Lions they do have that loss with Hutchinson, so I'm interested to see what that looks like for him. I don't know. This feels like a really tough matchup. And for Sam Darnold, it feels like a lot of people are just waiting for the moment where things just kind of fall off for him. But the Vikings, the record, it's so good right now. I don't know how you continue to doubt them.
So that's the team aspect, and I think the individual aspect of this weekend is Justin Fields and Russell Wilson. Everybody's talking about that. Said this yesterday, Fields would be the first QB in the Super Bowl era to lead a team to a 4-2 record and then not start their 7th game.
If healthy, right?
If healthy. That's amazing to me. And the other part is Devontae Adams going to the Jets and seeing what kind of impact he makes with them offensively with Aaron Rodgers. So some pretty good storylines going into this weekend.
And the Jets with Devontae Adams on Sunday Night Football for his first game. And you talk about both of those teams, Dan. You've got the Jets and the Steelers playing against each other with all that drama on Sunday Night Football.
Yeah, plenty of drama every single week in the NFL.
Yep.
I still find myself, anytime Jaden Daniels is playing, I gravitate towards his game.
He's fun to watch.
He's amazing. Leads in completion percentage, 4th in passer rating, 4th in yards per attempt. He's as good as advertised, and he was the number 2 overall pick for a reason. I just didn't think he'd be this good.
And the Commanders have a bye this week in the name of the Carolina Panthers.
The other guy I love watching right now is Derrick Henry. He has turned back the clock.
So does Brooke.
I know you do.
Yeah, I do. Well, for fantasy purposes, as a Titan fan, that's a little painful to see. Always rooting for him, though. But, man, Derrick Henry is just so good. That duo of him and Lamar, it's just perfect. Not great for the other teams that have to face them, but Derrick Henry, you can just see the amount of work that he puts into himself during the offseason and how it pays off during the regular season.
Yeah, he's averaging 20 carries a game.
He's
a
amazing.
Beast.
All right, those are your storylines heading into Week 7. Coming up, we're going to head down this week of the opening drive with Rocc and Roll here on 101 ESPN.
It's the best time of the year, and that's not just because we're in the midst of football season. I know we're looking at Week 7 with all those entries on Underdog Fantasy ready to go, but if you go on to Underdog Fantasy right now, you can build entries with NFL, MLB, college football, NHL, WNBA, and with the NBA starting up, that is going to get added to the docket as well. That's my favorite thing about Underdog Fantasy. It's not just the perfect play to play my daily fantasy football. It's the perfect play to play It's the perfect place to play daily fantasy for every single sport that I'm interested in. In fact, I'm going to build my entry for tonight, and I'm going to go with a baseball game. We're going to start off with Aaron Judge and Shohei Ohtani higher than 1.5 total bases. That's a good base to start on your entry, and you can build from there. Making picks on Underdog is straightforward, and signing up is even easier. Just head over to Underdog's simple-to-use mobile app or to UnderdogFantasy.com. Sign up with the promo code ROCC, and Underdog is going to give you a free pick to use in your first Cash Champions entry, plus up to $1,000 in bonus cash when you deposit. That's Underdog Fantasy, promo code ROCC to claim your new customer special of a free pick and your deposit offer. Must be 18 plus at present and stay where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Concern with your play. Call 1-800-GAME or visit www.ncbgambling.org.
I want to rock. And roll.
Let's rock. Let's rock today.
All right, Matthew, what do you got for rock and roll?
Hold on, Matthew. Can I say something real quick?
You interject, Dan.
Okay, we get a groundbreaking on Wednesday, October 30th. Just got news of this at 11 that the officially Normandy. Well, they've been working on this forever. So Normandy Golf Course is going to be redesigned. It's going to help out a lot of kids in North St. Louis County. It's a big deal, and they've been trying to get this funded for years. It'll be a Nicklaus design. He came in. Jack Nicklaus actually rode the course and designed it, and they're going to redo it. And so the official groundbreaking is now going to happen. So I just want to throw that out there. It's great news.
If Jack Nicklaus is designing it, which he is, there's going to be a lot of difficult sand.
It'll be wide open, but you don't want to be in the sand.
Those greens are going to be very well protected.
Yes, they will.
From the sand, yeah.
So that's good news for St. Louis.
I love that, and I love that track. That was one of the first courses I ever played in my life.
A lot of people said that.
Yeah, I love that course.
It's a historic place, so really, really cool news coming out.
Thank you for that.
You got it.
All right, Matthew. Oh, can I give it one other? I want you guys to weigh in here, okay? So I'm playing golf today.
You got to think of something now.
Yeah, I got to think of what to
something.
I'm wearing black pants, and I've got like a red Nike shirt. So should I try to go Tiger? Should I go black cap today? What do you think?
Use a Nike ball, maybe?
I'm not going to use a Nike ball.
Yeah.
So do I?
Backwards cap. Also walking into the course.
I don't have a TW cap, but I've got a black Callaway cap or a black Cobra cap. Do I go black cap or do I just go white cap?
Yeah. I think
you
black cap.
You got to go all Tiger.
Okay, I'll go all Tiger then. I will.
I like it.
Have you seen his new apparel?
I don't like
Tiger
it.
on the
I don't
front?
like that logo.
You don't like it?
No, I like
Why?
TW way better. It looks like a tiger skeleton, like you'd see at the what's the museum in the Chicago, the with the dinosaurs and stuff. On the lakefront there, right by Soldier Field.
Oh, I used to take my kids
History
there.
Museum.
Yeah. The what?
The History Museum.
It's whatever the History Museum
Or the
is.
aquarium is there, and I think it's
that's
attached
the
to
Shed
that.
Aquarium.
Right.
Yeah. But anyway, whatever the museum is, the tiger logo looks exactly like the dinosaur when you walk in the door at that museum.
Yeah. It is a weird logo. I'm with Randy on that one.
So TW was better. And then not that I would ever. Can you guys ever imagine buying an item with somebody's name or initials on it, like TW? I would never buy a TW or Tiger Woods cap.
It's more the logo, though.
It is, but I mean, you're buying it to represent a person.
He's a brand.
Why do you think every single athlete's personal brand now is just their initials?
Right, but here's the thing. I do this. I'm an idiot because I buy these $32, and the Callaway caps, by the way, are exceptionally comfortable. But I spend $32 on a cap to advertise Callaway.
And you're not getting paid for it.
I'm not. No, I'm paying them to advertise.
The guys
for
at the PGA Tour, that forehead is worth about $250 grand.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Everyone's saying, "Were you thinking of the Field
real
Museum?"
Quick? No, I'm just kidding. I'm not going to do that to you.
Field Museum. Okay.
Field Museum. There you go. Thank you very much.
I'm
Justin
kidding.
Fields
You can
Museum.
have your Justin Fields.
Did you guys see yesterday? There was some surprising news. College basketball just about to get ready to start. In fact, the St. Louis Billikens have an exhibition game down at Chaffetz tonight if you want to go to that. But some surprising news yesterday as Tony Bennett retired from Virginia, which I think surprised a lot of people just because the start of the year's right around the corner. He's been extremely successful. There haven't been any rumors around this beyond maybe this being, his last 2 or 3 years. But he retires, and obviously a lot of the conversation immediately went to why would a coach with this much success is retiring. You look at the other coaches who have retired. He's much younger than them. Nick Saban and a lot of those guys are in their 70s. Tony Bennett's only 55. And unsurprisingly, but Jim Boeheim, who recently retired, had this to say on his retirement. We lost one of our great coaches solely because of the landscape that is college basketball. Our leadership has to stop focusing on how much money we can make and find a way to get the student athletes on board with an answer for NIL.
So he's sick of the landscape.
Which I thought was a weird comment from Boeheim.
Yeah, not health reasons. I mean, between that and being a musician, it's a lot of work for him to do. That was a Randy joke.
I left my heart.
Nice.
I wonder.
in San Francisco.
I bet you'll know the answer to this.
Yes.
I was just thinking of this. So who's the last ACC coach to win the national championship? You don't have Roy. You don't have Coach K. You don't have Bennett. It's got to be a long time ago.
Yeah.
I mean, can you think of anybody?
Is there an active guy that has won a championship? I don't think there is.
I don't think there is either. I'm going through the schools in my mind. I don't think that'll be different for college basketball because they've had at least one in the ACC for years.
For years, yeah. Leonard Hamilton doesn't have one, right?
Nope.
Huh.
Been close to Florida State.
Yeah. That's really interesting. That's a great stat. By the way, I think if this would have happened maybe even 3-4 years earlier, that Brad Soderberg would have had a shot at that job. He's still on that staff, but he seems to be like the fourth assistant. I think he might be their director of operations or something now. And they have a couple of assistants with head coaching experience that are probably ahead of Sodi. I wonder if he'll at least get an interview, though.
Can you imagine if you're the AD and you go into your job yesterday and your head coach of your very successful basketball program says, I've had enough. And by all accounts, he's in good health. And he had just talked at like media day and said, everything's fine and I'm doing well and we hope to have a good year and yada, yada, yada. And then all of a sudden you get hit with this. Ouch.
Yeah, well, I have to believe, number one, Roy Williams and Mike Krzyzewski were getting old. But Saban was is a young 72 or 73, but Saban said that he left because of NIL. And now you have Boeheim talking about Tony Bennett perhaps leaving. Chip Kelly left UCLA to become the OC at Ohio State because of this. I would say that we're probably going to see more in college football and basketball. More guys depart because of their lack of palatability for the NIL.
The BC head coach went to be a coordinator with
Mark
Green
Hafley,
Bay.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, you're talking about being a head coach at UCLA. You leave there to go be, now it's Ohio State, don't get me wrong, but you're Chip Kelly and you're the head coach at UCLA.
UCLA?
You leave that?
Yeah, we're in Los Angeles, by the way, if you aren't aware.
Suck it up. Suck it up.
Yeah, no, I'm being Deshaun Foster.
Yeah.
You don't know us very well. We're in Los Angeles.
Oh, I still feel so bad about that.
He was a good
really
running
awkward.
back.
Yeah.
He's going to be a good football coach, Randy.
Okay, good.
I hated that so much. I felt so bad for him.
If you haven't seen it, you can find it on YouTube.
No, please don't watch
Deshaun
it.
Foster's first Big Ten Media Days press conference.
I got it.
We're excited to be here. He's talking to the Big Ten media because they're like from Michigan and Ohio and stuff.
I can't watch it without sweating.
Yeah. If you don't know anything about us, we're from Los Angeles.
And then just the pause afterwards, too. No, I just felt so
what he said.
That was literally like public speaking nightmare. We've all had that nightmare, right? Where all of a sudden you feel like you're in front of a huge crowd and you need to say something, but then you can't get the words out and they're just all staring at you.
Yeah. Humana.
It's giving me goosebumps just having to relive that audio moment. God, that was so uncomfortable.
How'd you like to be the SID?
Yeah, you're right.
I didn't know I'd have to tell him that we're from L.A.
Again. I feel like he's going to be much better once he gets a headset on instead of a microphone in front of him. I'm confident in that with Deshaun Foster. Great running back.
That would have done the same thing.
So unfortunately, college basketball does lose an incredible coach who won a lot of games. Now, on the flip side, good. Because coaches who knowingly have great talent and play a 385th place pace should be out of college basketball. I'm glad I don't have to watch your slow, pondering, just assault to actual real basketball. You were an incredible coach. And in my opinion, you were a blasphemer against the religion of good basketball. Yeah, you won, but you did it at what cost? How dare you do what you did to basketball, Tony Bennett? How dare you? And I'm glad you're gone. Let's see a fast break point from the Virginia team at some point this season.
Let's blame his dad first.
Well, he also won a ton of games with that style.
But in 2024, how hard must it be to find a 16-year-old to commit to a school to play that style of basketball?
I thought that all the time. And you had to have kids. I did a bunch of their games. And when he first got there, you had to have a commitment from the freshman that he would be there until he was a senior. He talked about building the program that way, not having transfers, and taking in lesser kids that would buy into playing defense. I mean, that's tough to do. Yeah. Kids don't want to do that.
No.
They want to shoot the rock, man.
They do. In this age where it's run and gun and Steph Curry has changed the game, and you do have 3-and-D guys. You definitely have guys that play defense, but not rugged defense. And you know what? The same thing's going to happen to Matt Painter at Purdue. Eventually, he's going to run out of players that will be willing to play that style. There's only so many 7'4" guys that can play that are running around on this world.
Yeah, I was going to say Edey certainly helped that way.
Right.
Yeah.
One of my favorite Twitter posters, a guy named Roger Sherman, who used to work for The Ringer, had the best tweet of the night, which was, Tony Bennett meant to retire closer to the end of last season, but he's last in pace. And that's my favorite. It's my favorite comment on the decision by Mr. Bennett. Again, an incredible season. Virginia was an unbelievable team. He put a lot of players in the NBA, and obviously college basketball is worse off when they lose great coaches like this. But if you're a weirdo who likes betting overs, college basketball got a little better.
Yeah, right. By the way, let me throw one other guy. College basketball, and I'm sure this is a transfer portal NIL guy. College basketball can't be as good with Jay Wright not coaching in it.
I agree.
Yeah.
Miss him so much.
Me too.
Just a hell of a coach.
He's not nearly as good looking without him either.
Yeah.
He's pretty good on the CBS set.
He is. Yeah.
He does a nice job.
As a guy in his 60s, I would love to look like Jay Wright. I need to get a lot taller, lose a lot of weight, and then buy a bunch of suits.
I'm also a little mad at Jay Wright because he had the suit game, and then he went to the track suits on the sideline, and then as soon as he retired, he went back to the impeccable suit game.
And was the deciding vote to go to the track suits after COVID ended.
And then again, he retires, and then he goes straight to having the most impeccable suits in the booth of the entire broadcasting clique. I think it's a little hypocritical from Mr. J.
I'm
just saying.
Yep.
I think you look great, Randy.
Oh, thank you.
I think Randy looks fantastic.
So, I just need to drop about 30 and buy some really nice suits.
No. just wear the black cap today.
I will wear the black cap today. I will go home and pick that up. Cobra or Callaway? Black cap.
Ooh.
Callaway.
Callaway it is. Well, I'll send you guys a picture. Matthew, great job. Thank you, sir.
Pleasure.
That's our producer, audio, video engineer, the one, the only Matthew Rocchio. Brooke, did you have fun today?
Of course.
And you will have BK in the studio with you on Monday. I'm going to be playing in the Mobile on the Run golf tournament. On the Run golf tournament, our friends from Wallace are going to have their golf tournament. They've invited me to play on Monday, so I'm going to be there.
Nice.
Looking forward to it.
Hit him straight. It's supposed to be 80 degrees on Monday.
It's going to be lovely.
Yep, going to be great.
And you are going to be watching some golf next week.
I will. My daughter is part of the state championship finals, if you want to call it that. She qualified for state. She won district herself, and I'm very proud of her. And this is her senior year. So Monday and Tuesday, we'll see if she can capture a team crown or maybe individual or just have a little fun.
Yep. Good luck to her.
Wow.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah,
At the end of the day, have some fun.
Absolutely.
Hey, we thank you for tuning in, texting in, and being a part of the show. We had a lot of fun. We've got a balloon party with T-Mac and Ajax coming up, followed by BK and Ferrario. And then you've got the Fast Lane from 2 to 6. For all of us, we thank you for being a part of the show. And don't just have a great weekend. Have an American weekend.